Chapter 948. Yes, it's that money grubber. The smile on her lips deepened. Ning Lang, the only son of Ning City's city lord, was extremely stingy. Other than being a miser, his methods of earning money were also extraordinary. It was said that when he was 1 year old, he carried a gold abacus and 2 gold ingots. When he was 5, he already knew how to earn money. When he was 8, he was already helping his father behind the scenes. It could be said that Ning City's prosperity could not be separated from this money grubber Ning Lang. You want to ask that money grubber to go to the Hell Mountain Range? You don't have to think about it. He only cares about how to earn money all day long. He won't be interested in going to the Hell Mountain Range. Duan Yi waved his hand and said. He did not expect Feng Jiu to come here to find that money grubber. How can that be? There are many valuable things in the Hell Mountain Range. As long as he's greedy, he won't reject our invitation. Her eyes moved slightly, flashing with a hint of a smile. Seeing that he did not believe, Duan Yi did not say anything. You'll know when you see him. He's a person, how do I put it? He won't let go of any opportunity to earn money. But at the same time, he cherishes his life very much. As he said, he has to enjoy the money he earns, so he doesn't want to do dangerous things, lest he accidentally loses his life. It's too miserable to die, but have money to spend. Hearing this, Feng Jiu chuckled. He's an interesting person. Let's go. She walked forward, Tun Yun following beside her feet. Seeing this, Duan Ye's baby face showed some helplessness as he followed her inside. Since you want to find him, let's go directly to the city lord's mansion to pay him a visit. He might be at home. As Duan Yi spoke, he found someone to ask for directions, then went to the city lord's mansion with Feng Jiu. Who is it? The guards of the city lord's mansion stopped the two of them and asked, I want to see your young city lord. Go in and inform him that Duan Yi is looking for him. Duan Yi, who had a baby face, stood with his hands behind his back. He was dressed in a purple robe and had a natural noble aura. Seeing this, the guards looked at each other and said, Wait a moment. Then, one of them quickly went in to pass the message. In the study of the city lord's mansion, a young man was counting on an abacus. At this moment, the voice of an attendant came from outside the door. Young master, there are 2 people outside. One of them is called Duan Yi and is looking for young master. Duan Yi, the young man who had his head buried in calculating, paused and raised his head in surprise. Why is he here? Young master, do you want to see them or let them go? The servant outside asked. Invite them to the front hall. I'll be there in a moment. Yes. The attendant replied and went out to report. Outside, Feng Jiu and Duan Yi were invited into the city lord's mansion and brought to the front hall. The one leading the way was an old man. According to his self-introduction, he was the Ning family's housekeeper. He, please have a cup of tea and some snacks. My young master will be here soon. The old man said with a smile. After asking someone to serve tea and snacks, he left and waited outside the hall. Feng Jiu sized up the Ning mansion and couldn't help but click his tongue. From the inside to the outside, it's dazzling. No matter how you look at it, you can see the word rich. What a rich person. Chapter 949. The Ning family's wealth is comparable to that of country. They're so rich that they're overflowing with oil. She was a little speechless. This was the first time she had seen someone decorate their home like this. The ground and walls reflected golden light and a kind of colorful light when the sun shone on them. If she guessed correctly, those should be gold and crystal stones. Otherwise, it would be impossible to emit such a light. Using gold and crystal stones to pave the ground and paint the walls as decoration, probably only the Ning family was willing to do so. The Ning family has a lot of money to begin with. It can almost be said that they control the economic lifeline of this second-class country. Otherwise, Ning City wouldn't be the most prosperous town in this country. As Duan Yi spoke, he picked up the teacup and took a sip. The tea that entered his mouth emitted waves of spiritual power, which made him smile. Even I can't get half a kilogram of spiritual tea that's worth tens of thousands of gold coins. He can casually take it out to greet guests. He's really generous. Babyface, what brings you here today? You actually came to Ning City to look for me? What's the matter? A voice sounded. Feng Jiu and Duan Yi both looked up. They saw a 16 or 17-year-old boy walking towards them. He was wearing a dazzling golden silk robe. His hair was tied up with a golden crown, and a golden belt was wrapped around his waist. His entire body was shining with golden light. What made Fengjiu stunned was that this boy was half a head shorter than her and Duanyi. Moreover, he was white and chubby like a fat baby in a New Year's picture. There was a round golden collar around his neck. 9 of his 10 fingers were wearing rings, which were either gold or jade. Moreover, there were 2 bracelets on his wrists made of unknown materials. There was also a small and exquisite golden abacus on his waist. The corner of her mouth twitched. She was speechless. He couldn't wait to hang all the gold and other things on his body, right? He didn't feel that those things were heavy, but she felt that they were heavy for him. Moreover, Ninglang's image really broke her expectations and fantasies. She thought that he would be an elegant young man, but who knew that he was a white and chubby little boy? Moreover, he was a fat little boy who liked money very much. Little fatty, I haven't seen you for a long time. I find that you've gained weight again. Your eyes are narrowed into a line. TSK, TSK. Your taste hasn't changed at all. I'm dazzled by the things on your body. Duanyi looked at him and shook his head, speaking in a familiar tone. I told you not to call me Little Fatty. I have a name, Ninglang. Little Fatty said, Who told you to call me Babyface? Then he said to Fengjiu, Have you seen this little fatty before? Fengjiu shook his head. Looking at the white and chubby little boy in front of him, he couldn't help but smile. It's the first time I've seen him. He was vulgar, but he didn't have that kind of vulgar feeling. Perhaps it was because this little fatty was white and chubby and had a cute little chubby appearance. Even if his robe was luxurious with golden threads, his hair was tied up with a golden crown and a golden belt wrapped around his body, he still didn't give people a vulgar feeling. On the contrary, he had a kind of oppressive wealth on him. Chapter 950. Duanyi opened his mouth, but was interrupted by Fengjiu. Do you know the Hell Mountain Range? She looked at him and smiled. We want to invite you to go with us. Are you interested? Hell Mountain Range. Ninglang looked at them and shook his head. He said directly, Not interested. That place has a lot of natural treasures, spirit stones, and crystal cores. She looked at him and smiled. I only know that place is very dangerous. If I go in, I probably won't be able to come out. He waved his meaty hands and said, Also, I'm very busy. I've been busy settling accounts recently. I don't have time to go out. It's said that a stock of aged spiritual medicine can be sold for a sky-high price. You really don't want to go? Other than those beast crystals, the Hell Mountain Range also produces all kinds of beautiful gemstones. Hearing this, Ninglang's eyes moved. He glanced at Fengjiu and hesitated. He shook his head. Even so, I'm not going. It's too dangerous. There's a spiritual stream in the Hell Mountain Range that produces gold pearls and black pearls in the lower stream. These 2 treasures can only be found in the spiritual stream of the Hell Mountain Range. There are no other places, not even the 8 great empires. Hearing about gold pearls and black pearls, Ninglang couldn't help but gulp. A light appeared in his eyes. This time, he didn't reject directly. Instead, he lowered his head and played with his fingers. No one knew what he was thinking. Other than that, stop. I can't take it anymore. You know that I like things related to money the most. Why do you keep talking about it? Ninglang interrupted Fengjiu. He rubbed his face with both hands and asked, Just tell me directly. Why do you want me to go? I'm not strong and I can't do anything even if I go. At most, I'll go wherever there are treasures. What's more, I won't give you what I find. Why do you want me to go? This won't benefit you, right? As he spoke, he shook his head. No, it's not good for either side. Because our strength isn't strong, we might be dragged away by beasts before we can enter. Or we might encounter robbers inside and have our treasure stolen. Or we might even die without even touching the treasures. The more I think about it, the more it's not worth it. Fengjiu curled his lips into a smile. How can there be money without risk? If you want to get something, you have to pay a price. Let me ask you, are you going or not? I have to think about it and discuss it with my father. How can I go just like that? As he spoke, he scratched his head and said, "How about this? You can stay at my house tonight, and I'll give you an answer tomorrow." "All right." She nodded her head. In her heart, she had already made up her mind. If he agreed to go, then that would be the best. But if he did not agree, she would directly tie him up and take him away. In any case, she would just throw him in there to gain experience for a year, regardless of whether his cultivation would advance or not. After a year, she would just return him to the 2-star academy. Duan Yi, who was at the side, didn't say anything. He just sat there eating snacks and drinking tea while listening to the two of them talk. Chapter 9:51. Thus, he personally brought them to the backyard to settle them down and let them rest for a while. He then turned and left. When he returned to the front, he rubbed his head and thought about the young man in red. "Fengjiu? Why do I feel like I've seen him somewhere before?" He muttered as he turned and walked back. After instructing people to prepare for the banquet, he returned to the main courtyard. "Father!" He peeked his head out of the courtyard and walked in, asking, "Is my father in the courtyard?" "The mayor and madam have gone out and haven't returned yet." The guard in the courtyard replied, "Oh, I see." He thought for a moment, then said, "When they're back, get someone to inform me." After giving his instructions, he returned to his room. When he returned to his room, he took out the golden abacus and continued to calculate the unfinished accounts. His chubby fingers were unbelievably nimble when it came to calculating the abacus. However, after about an hour, he suddenly paused. "Ah, I remember now. Young master, what's wrong? Young master, what's wrong?" When the servant outside heard the shriek from inside, he couldn't help but ask worriedly. However, he didn't dare to open the door without his instructions. "It's nothing." As Ning Lang spoke, he ignored the servant outside and flipped through the study table behind him. Not long after, he found a portrait. When his gaze landed on the portrait, his small eyes slowly widened. "So, it's him. I was thinking that he looked familiar. So I've seen him before. It's him." The person in the portrait was dressed in red and had a handsome face. The wanton expression between his brows and the expression in his eyes were extremely realistic. It was undoubtedly Fengjiu, the ghost doctor. It's actually the ghost doctor. A bottle of his medicine can be sold for a sky-high price. And that beauty pill is even more priceless. It's said that the one and only pill was bought by a member of the royal family of a first-tier country during the first auction. But why did this guy come to my house? And he wants to bring me to the Hell Mountain Range? There are so many people out there, but why me? He held the portrait and muttered to himself. His small eyes darted around. He had the mind of a businessman. Thus, in the face of benefits, what he thought the most was why. Why would someone like the ghost doctor come to his house? Why didn't he look for anyone else? Why did he have to go to the Hell Mountain Range? He sat quietly in the room for an hour until the attendant outside reported that his parents had returned. Thus, he put the portrait into his bosom before opening the door and walking out. Because he was a businessman, he had the latest news from all sides, especially the most profitable news. It was a pity that he couldn't get the ghost doctor's medicine, because it had always been auctioned off in the black market. Even if others wanted to, they didn't have a chance. Ever since the portrait of the ghost doctor had spread among the various major powers and the royal family, many people had been secretly paying attention to it. Who would have thought that it would actually run to his home in Ning City? Thinking of this, his heart was faintly excited. If his parents knew about this, they would definitely be very shocked. Let's tell them this news first before making a decision. As for the front hall, the city lord was slightly surprised when he heard the butler say that there was a guest in the house. Oh, was he here to look for Lang? This child only knew how to earn money all day long. He didn't even go back to the academy, but he actually had friends who came to look for him? Interesting. Chapter 9:52. The beautiful woman sitting next to the city lord smiled and said, "Pass down the order. We have to entertain the young master's 2 friends tonight. Tell the kitchen to hurry up and prepare." "Madam, the young master has already given the order. The kitchen is already preparing," the housekeeper said with a smile. "That's good." The beautiful woman nodded and looked at the city lord beside her. "Go and call Langer over." The city lord motioned. "Yes." The housekeeper replied. Just as he was about to turn and leave, he saw his young master coming over from not far away. He hurriedly turned back and said, "Master, madam, the young master is here. Father, mother." Seeing their chubby son running over, the city lord and madam looked at each other and smiled. Looking at the chubby figure running over, their faces were full of doting love. Slow down, slow down. You're already so big, and you still need to run. If the servants see you, they'll laugh at you." The city lord's wife said with a smile, shaking her head helplessly. "Mother." He came to his mother's side and reached out to hold her hand. "Father, mother, let me tell you just now." I know. When we came in, the housekeeper told us that you have 2 friends coming to see you, right? Father and mother both know." The city lord's wife smiled and interrupted him. She patted his chubby hand and said, "Son, it's not easy to have friends come find you. Don't just focus on earning money. Play with your 2 friends and take them around the city. You have to be a good host and build a good relationship with your friends." The city lord nodded. That's right. Listen to father and mother and go out more often. Don't stay in the city all day. If you really don't want to go out more, go back to the academy. You should have many friends there, right? You haven't gone back for so long. They must miss you very much." Seeing that his parents wanted to encourage him to return to the academy whenever they had the chance, he couldn't help but dig his ears and say, "Father, mother, don't keep bringing this up. My ears are getting calluses from hearing it so much." He had originally planned to tell them about Fengzhou's identity, but seeing the 2 of them like this, he swallowed back the words that were on the tip of his tongue. Rolling his eyes, he smiled with a pair of sparkling eyes and said, "Father, mother, I remember that there are still some things that I haven't dealt with yet. I have to go back first. That's right, don't be unable to find me tonight. When the sun sets, I have to entertain guests." I know. Aren't they your 2 friends? Father and mother also want to meet them." City Lord Ning said with a smile. Looking at his sneaky son's eyes, he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Although it's not very good to say that my son is sneaky, but looking at him like this, no one knows him better than his father. I guess he's planning something again. You'll see them tonight. They're resting now. I'll leave first. I have to deal with some matters." As Ning Lang said this, he waved his hand and didn't give them a chance to speak. He turned around and trotted out. Returning to his courtyard, he went straight to his study. After busying himself for about the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn, he called out 4 shadow guards and handed them something. "Here are 8 invitations. Take them to the several families and forces in the city. Tell them that 1 invitation is worth 100,000 gold coins." "Yes." The 4 shadow guards respectfully responded and quickly left. Chapter 9:53. Therefore, in the large Ning city, on this day, a few of the more prominent forces in the city received the invitation sent by Ning City's young city lord, Ning Lang. To be precise, it wasn't a gift, but a sale. A single invitation, an invitation to enter the city lord's manor to attend a banquet, was worth 100,000 gold. When they heard this unbelievably high price, even the leaders of those forces were shocked, thinking that he had gone mad from thinking about money. Why would they spend 100,000 gold to attend his family's banquet for no reason? However, when everyone heard the secret guard's words and took a look at the invitation, their expressions changed slightly, their eyes filled with disbelief. The ghost doctor? It's actually the ghost doctor? The ghost doctor is in the city lord's manor now? Everyone was stunned, but more were pleasantly surprised. Especially before they could make a decision, their wives had rushed over after hearing the news, asking their husbands to pay 100,000 gold to attend the banquet tonight because they wanted to buy the beauty-nourishing pill from the ghost doctor. Heaven knows that the beauty-nourishing pill caused a sensation when it came out. To women who didn't want to be beautiful enough to retain their man's gaze and love. Especially in those families with many wives and concubines, the charm of a single beauty-nourishing pill was irresistible because it didn't just make them younger and prettier, it was a pill that could change their life. This ghost doctor is really in the city lord's manor? A family head asked in disbelief. People from all the countries were looking for the ghost doctor's whereabouts, but he had come to their place? Was this real? Why would he stay in the city lord manor? Could it be that the ghost doctor and the city lord were old acquaintances? I'm only following orders. I don't know anything else. However, my master said that he would never swindle people when doing business. This 100,000 gold is only the prerequisite for everyone to attend the banquet tonight. He's providing everyone with a chance to get close to each other. As for whether the ghost doctor will accept everyone's request, that has nothing to do with my master. Hearing this, the family head hesitated, but still ordered someone to take the secret guard away and gave him 100,000 gold in exchange for the invitation. After the secret guard left, the family head called for someone to go out and inquire about the news, until they heard that a few other powerful families had also bought the invitation to the banquet. Their expressions changed slightly, and there was a trace of excitement in their hearts. For everyone to spend 100,000 gold coins to buy it, this ghost doctor should be real. When they thought of the ghost doctor's miraculous medical skills, as well as those medicines and pills, their hearts started to beat wildly. The ghost doctor's medicines and pills were all priceless. If they could get 1 or 2 bottles. Thinking of this, the patriarch swallowed his saliva and hurriedly ordered people to make preparations. They would head to the city lord's mansion in the evening. As for Fungio, who was cultivating in the city lord's mansion, she would never have thought that the little fat boy would be so greedy. He dared to sell her information on their first meeting and even attracted people from various forces in the city. If she knew about the trouble he had caused, she would definitely give him a good beating so that he would remember. As time passed, the sun set in the west. Before the sky was completely dark, the few sovereigns holding the invitation cards came to the city lord's mansion one after another. After showing the cards, a few servants waiting inside personally welcomed them in. Chapter 954. There was still some time before the banquet, so she decided to take a stroll around the city lord's manor. Flicking her red robes, she strode out. Everywhere she went, she saw luxurious houses and groups of servants. Everywhere she went, she could feel the hidden aura of a large family. Every distance she walked out of the courtyard, she could feel the aura hidden in the shadows. After walking around, she happened to come to the side of a rock garden. She sat down on a rock beside the pond and saw that the servants in the manor seemed to be busy walking back and forth. "Master," the Ning family's young master said that the ghost doctor is here. It should be true, right? When I came in, I asked the servants in the manor, but none of them knew. A woman's voice came from behind the rock garden. Her words made Fungio raise his eyebrows. How can it be false? An invitation to the banquet costs 100,000 gold. If it's not true, would he dare to accept this money? The man's voice was low and steady. I don't really want to ask for pills and medicine. I just want to ask the ghost doctor to treat our Hong-er's illness. This is a rare opportunity, so I have to give it a try no matter what. That's right. This ghost doctor comes and goes like a ghost. It's rare for us to know that he's come to Ning City. No matter what, we have to invite him to our house. The two chatted as they walked, their voices gradually fading away. Standing by the pond, Fungio blinked his eyes in shock. An invitation cost 100,000 gold? Were they going to rob money? Ning Lang, this little fatty, she shook her head and sighed softly. Sure enough, these brats were not easy to manipulate. Each of them had more tricks up their sleeves than she did. While she was thinking of how to take him away, he already knew that she was the ghost doctor. This banquet was said to be a welcoming banquet, so he could take the opportunity to make a fortune. This little fatty, it was no wonder he was called a miser. Thinking of that white and fat little fatty, full of wealth, calling out a name that was as elegant as beautiful jade, she couldn't help but smile. Ning Lang was a homonym for Lin Lang, which meant precious and beautiful jade treasures. It could be seen that the city lord couple had high expectations and love for their son, and the little fatty didn't seem to disappoint them. He wasn't as graceful as other youths, but he was also fair and plump, full of wealth and wealth. Perhaps, for parents, seeing their children grow up safely and being fair and tender was enough to satisfy them. Forget it. After being tricked once, I'll find another chance to get back at you. She chuckled and turned around to walk back. She returned to the courtyard and sat for a while. Not long after, Duan Yi opened the door from the other room and walked out. I think I heard you go out. He rubbed his shoulders and yawned as he looked at Fengjiu, who was sitting in the courtyard. After a good night's sleep, he felt comfortable all over. It was one thing for him to be able to stay in a homestay, but if he didn't, he would have to make do with the night in the mountains and forests. He didn't have much rest. Yes, I went out for a walk. She tapped her fingers on the table, her gaze deep in thought. No one knew what she was thinking. Seeing this, Duanyi walked over and sat down beside Fengjiu. If this little fatty doesn't come with us, what do you plan to do? Hearing this, Fengjiu glanced at him and asked with a smile, Then what do you think I should do? Chapter 955. Fengjiu smiled and didn't say anything. If it weren't for her identity as a teacher, she wouldn't have specially brought them along. As for going to the Hell Mountain Range, she didn't plan to go. But on the way, she felt that it was better to go to the Hell Mountain Range than to bring them back to the academy to teach. You're awake? I was just wondering if you were still asleep. Ning Lang, the chubby boy, walked in. A 16-year-old youth who wasn't tall, his appearance was quite likable. However, this likable little fatty was someone who was good at scheming. He looked at the two of them, and finally his gaze fell on Fengjiu. He smiled with his small eyes and asked, Fengjiu, are you comfortable living here? Are you not used to it? Do you need me to help you change to another courtyard? No need, this place is quite good. She stood up and flicked her robe. Then let's go to the front. The banquet in front is already prepared, and my parents are already there, he said with a smile, gesturing for the two to follow him. Let's go. I'm already hungry, Duanyi said and walked out first. Fengjiu, who was behind him, glanced at Ning Lang with a smile and followed him out to the front courtyard. Front courtyard? Why haven't we seen anyone yet? Yeah, we haven't seen anyone yet. Is this real or fake? That's right. Didn't they say that he's here? The city lord's wife, who was sitting on the main seat, heard the people sitting on both sides whispering as if they hadn't seen anyone yet and couldn't help but feel puzzled. Everyone, are you saying that my son hasn't arrived yet? He went to invite his two friends and should be back soon. The city lord said with a smile, but he was puzzled. He heard his son say that tonight's banquet was for his two friends, but why did he invite the rulers of all the major forces in Ning City? Moreover, none of them were absent, and some even brought their wives along. It was really strange. When the people sitting on both sides heard this, they couldn't help but smile. One of them asked, City Lord, I heard that the ghost doctor came to your residence. Is it true? Hearing this, the city lord was stunned. The ghost doctor? Where did this news come from? Why didn't I know? He really didn't know. When did the ghost doctor come from their city lord's residence? The ghost doctor's reputation had spread recently, and everyone wanted to see her, but they didn't know where to find her. How could she appear in their city lord's residence? Moreover, if she's really in his home, he wouldn't know. City lord, you don't know? Don't joke around. Tonight, it was your son who invited us. Oh no. That person shook his head and said with a smile. Although it was an invitation, it wasn't. They had spent 100,000 gold to buy this invitation. The city lord was confused. He glanced at his wife beside him and saw her shaking her head, indicating that she didn't know. He couldn't help but look at the people sitting around him. He asked hesitantly, What's going on? Teet, 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 teet. Chapter 956. Hearing this, the city lord furrowed his brows in astonishment and his expression darkened. If this was true, then one of the two youths who came today must be the ghost doctor. Other than that, there were no other guests in the city lord's manor. However, if one of them really was the ghost doctor, then Langer had leaked the news and invited them to the banquet at the price of 100,000 gold each. This method was inappropriate. Just as he was about to ask the madam to find out what was going on, he saw the housekeeper walking towards them with a smile on his face. Master, madam, the young master and his two friends are here. Hearing this, everyone quickly turned to look. They saw that among the three youths, the one leading the way was the city lord's son, Ning Lang. His chubby figure could be recognized at a glance. As for the two youths behind him, one was dressed in luxurious purple robes and had an imposing air of nobility, while the other was dressed in red robes and had a wanton and ostentatious air. Their gazes instinctively fell on the red-robed youth. When they saw that handsome yet somewhat devilish face, their eyes lit up and they all stood up. The ghost doctor. It really is the ghost doctor. Not bad, not bad. I also have a portrait of the ghost doctor. The real person is even more handsome and dazzling than the portrait. I didn't expect this. The ghost doctor is actually a youth. I always thought that he would be an old man or a middle-aged man. I didn't expect him to be so young. Ghost doctor, I am. In a moment, one by one, they rushed forward and surrounded Fungio. Their words were filled with excitement, and their hearts were filled with excitement. Surrounding Fungio, some people asked for medicine, some asked for pills, and some asked for treatment. It could be said that this person said one sentence after another, not giving Fungio a chance to speak or time to react. Duanyi, who had been pushed to the side, frowned and glanced at the smiling Ning Lang, asking, "Fatty, what ghost doctor? Is this your doing?" Duanyi, don't you know? He's the ghost doctor. Recently, it's been spread all over the big countries that one of his medicines can help people advance, and one pill can restore a person's youthful appearance. His medical skills are superb, and it's said that he's a ghost doctor who can snatch people from the king of hell. Thus, he's called the ghost doctor. Him? That's impossible, right? Duanyi was slightly startled as he stared at Fungio. Although he was surrounded by a crowd, his expression did not change. There was even a faint smile on his handsome face. However, the gaze that he inadvertently glanced at him made him feel strange. Therefore, he elbowed Ning Lang, who was beside him. "Fatty, did you offend him? Why did I see him looking at you with such a strange gaze?" "I'm telling you." After saying that, he didn't say anything else. The scene of Fungio killing people flashed before his eyes, and he felt a little apprehensive. Looking at him, who usually seemed harmless, he felt that compared to him, he was more dangerous and unfathomable. This fatty better not offend him. Otherwise, he was sure that, even if he didn't die, he would make him lose a few pounds of fat. "I'll just—" Ning Lang was about to speak when he was stopped. "Langer, come over here." The city lord glared at his chubby son with a dark face, anger surging in his heart. Chapter 9, 57. Ning Lang walked over and asked excitedly, "Father, are you surprised?" "Surprised? Oomph. If you're surprised, there's no surprise." City Lord Ning's face darkened as he snorted heavily and asked angrily, "The ghost doctor came to our house. Since you recognized her, why didn't you tell me? You even used 100,000 gold per invitation to invite people from various families. You're such a bastard. What does it matter? I only pulled the strings so that they could see the ghost doctor. Besides, look, they've all surrounded him. If he were to take out the medicine to sell, it would be a considerable sum of money. I've even helped him." Hearing this, City Lord Ning shook his head helplessly. "Son, not everyone thinks the same way as you. Do you think that just because his medicine can be sold at a sky-high price, he has to quickly refine more medicine to sell? No, to him, he doesn't have to sell the medicine. In this world, not everything can be bought with money." He lectured in a serious tone and gestured for him to look at the surrounded red-clothed youth. "People who want to buy his medicine will buy it no matter what, whether it's at a sky-high price or through bartering. As long as they feel that it's worth it, they will spend the money. His medicine won't be sold, as long as it's not enough. Your actions and actions today, we didn't ask for his opinion, did you? But I also brought him a chance to earn money. Isn't he happy that he can earn money? Do you think that refining medicine is so easy? Just by thinking about it? Nothing is easy. Refining medicine and pills are even more so. Otherwise, this world wouldn't value alchemists and medicine so much." Ning Lang moved his mouth, but didn't say anything. He was originally very smart. When his father said this, he understood. Therefore, he seemed to know that his actions today were too much. "They came all the way here to see you. They must value you as a friend. Tell me, what kind of bastard things have you done? Now that it's like this, how do you think we should end this?" He scratched his head and lowered it, not knowing what to do. On the other side, Fungio smiled distantly and said, "Everyone, I'm sorry." She walked out from the crowd and looked at Ning Lang. Didn't you say you would treat us to a big meal tonight? Well, how about this? I'll treat you guys to a meal, he suggested, intending to apologize to him after they went out. No need, just eat here. However, it's time to serve the dishes. Duanyi just said that he was hungry, she said with a smile, looked at City Lord Ning and his wife, and cupped her hands in greeting. City Lord's wife. Hee, Ghost Doctor need not be so courteous. Please take a seat, the City Lord said, hurriedly inviting him to take a seat. My name is Fengjiu. City Lord can just call me Fengjiu. She and Duanyi sat down together. Seeing this, the others also sat down. Steward, tell them to serve the dishes. Go to the wine cellar and take out my precious jar of spirit wine, the City Lord ordered. Yes. The butler hurriedly turned around and left. Everyone, this is all my son's fault. I will punish myself with 3 cups of wine and apologize to everyone. Chapter 958. Fengjiu glanced at Ning Lang and chuckled. It's all right, this isn't much. Anyway, she planned to wait until she threw him into the Hell Mountain range to temper his temper. When they reached that place, she wouldn't have to worry about not having a chance to teach him a lesson. When everyone saw this, they were secretly surprised. It seemed that this young Master Ning was secretly making 100,000 gold taels without anyone's knowledge. When they saw that the situation wasn't quite right, they didn't ask for any more pills or medicine. After the servants served the food and wine, the City Lord looked at Fengjiu and Duanyi and said with a smile, the 2 of you aren't from here, so we'll serve you with local ingredients today. He pointed at a plate in front of him with 2 king crabs on it. These are the king crabs unique to the Snow Sea. You can't eat them anywhere else. Unlike other places, the king crabs in the Snow Sea can be caught all year round. The crab roe is plump all year round. It can be said to be the best delicacy here. Please have a taste. Fengjiu saw these king crabs earlier. These things weren't common in the Phoenix dynasty. Even if they were, they wouldn't be this big. For someone like her who loved good food, she only wanted to eat after seeing such delicious king crabs. Then we won't stand on ceremony. As she spoke, she didn't look at anyone else. She picked up a small pair of scissors and cut off the crab's leg first, then opened the crab's lid. When the others saw him eating the crab skillfully, they couldn't help but be secretly surprised. These king crabs were only available here. Could it be that he had eaten them elsewhere? Looking at his technique, he wasn't unfamiliar at all. On the other hand, the baby-faced youth in purple stared at the king crab in front of him but didn't know where to start. In the end, he directly asked a servant girl behind him to serve him the meal. The City Lord ordered the steward to bring the spirit wine and let him fill everyone's cups. They chatted while eating. Everyone was tactful and knew that they shouldn't talk about other things during the meal. Therefore, they only talked about some romantic things. After eating and drinking to their heart's content, the things on the table were cleaned up and the spirit wine was poured for them again. Even though it was already late, no one wanted to leave. Instead, they were hesitating about what to say. Compared to the others, one of the husband and wife looked at each other and then stood up, cupping their hands and greeting towards Fengjiu. Ghost Doctor, I am the head of the He family in the city, and this is my wife. Tonight, because we know that the Ghost Doctor's medical skills are superb, and you have the ability to bring people back to life, we wish to ask the Ghost Doctor to save my son. As long as the Ghost Doctor is willing to save him, this he will remember the Ghost Doctor's great kindness. If there is anything this He family needs this He family's help in the future, this He family will not hesitate to die 10,000 times. Young Master Feng, please save my son. That madam he wiped away her tears, her face full of grief. We know that young Master Feng won't easily save people, but please understand the feelings of a mother. We really have no other way. The others looked at Fengjiu, their thoughts stirring. They knew about the He family's son. He was a rather outstanding youth, but it was said that he had some kind of bone-eroding wind poison. Both his legs were useless. They invited many doctors, even pharmacists and alchemists, but they all said that there was no way to save him. If he wanted to live, they could only chop off his 2 legs. Chapter 959. Seeing that everyone's eyes were on Fengjiu, Duan Yi, who was sitting to the side, looked at him in surprise and asked, "Are you really the ghost doctor? Are your medical skills very powerful?" Along the way, he had only seen him kill people quickly. He didn't know that he could save people. The ghost doctor? He had heard of this person before, and was said to be a very powerful person. However, what was powerful was not his skills, but his medicine and pills. A concubine of a first-class country had eaten one of his pills to regain favor. This matter had caused a great uproar in the kingdom of Qing, and everyone was clamoring for the ghost doctor's face-nourishing pill. And it seemed that his father had also sent people out to find the ghost doctor's whereabouts. Thinking of the description of the ghost doctor in the rumors, he couldn't help but glance sideways at the handsome young man in red beside him. If they hadn't mentioned him, he wouldn't have thought of him. Now that they had mentioned it, there really were some similarities. Fengjiu glanced at Duan Yi beside him and didn't answer his question. Instead, he looked at the he couple and said, "What illness does your son have? What did the doctors in the past say?" Hearing this, the couple couldn't help but be surprised and hurriedly said, "We invited many doctors to examine our home. They all said the same thing. They said it was bone-eroding wind poison. We don't know where it came from. We only know that the doctors said it was necrosis of the bones. Because it has been a long time, the situation is getting worse. 2 days ago, a doctor came to see him and said that if he wanted to live, he had to cut off his legs. But my son refused. Speaking of this, Madam, he wiped away her tears and said, he is still young. If he loses his legs, what will he do? We heard that the ghost doctor's medical skills are amazing, so we sent people to ask around for information about the ghost doctor. Who would have thought that we would hear from the young master of the Ning family that the ghost doctor was in the manor? So we came to ask the ghost doctor to save my son." "Bone-eroding wind poison?" Fengjiu whispered. "This isn't as simple as necrosis of the bones. Bone-eroding wind poison corrodes the bones, and fire poison attacks the organs. There is no saving the person. Ghost doctor, you must have a way, right? You have to save my son. Please save my son. I can pay any price, even if you want my life." Patriarchy begged. As parents, they were willing to give up everything for their children, even if it meant their lives. "What's the point of him taking your life? Let me tell you, he likes women, especially extremely beautiful ones. You might as well give him a beauty than anything else." Duan Ye's voice suddenly rang out. Everyone was stunned and looked at Fengjiu with strange expressions. The ghost doctor likes beauties? Really? If that was the case, it would be easy. As a result, they were all thinking in their hearts which of their daughters had reached the right age, or which of the women their families had raised to serve others with their looks were suitable. Hearing Duan Ye's unexpected words, Fengjiu glared at him. "Don't talk nonsense. This baby face, what did he say that she liked beauties the most? She was a woman. Why would she like a woman? What's more, how could he tell that she liked women?" Chapter 960. Hearing this, the corner of her mouth twitched. That is pure admiration. When a man looks at a woman, it is not pure admiration. It is all colored admiration. Duan Yi had an "I knew it" expression. He did not believe Fengjiu's words at all. Fengjiu could not be bothered to say more to him. She looked towards the he couple and said, "How about this? I will go to your residence tomorrow morning to take a look. The situation will depend on the illness." Originally, she planned to wait for Ning Lang's answer tomorrow, regardless of whether he agreed or not. She was going to take him away. However, meeting this person who was seeking medical treatment, just like what Madam he said, all parents in the world have a heart. Seeing their own son suffering, the pain of being unable to save him at any time, was even more unacceptable than taking their own lives. Although she was a cold-hearted person, she was also a sentimental person. She protected the people she valued and did not wish for the people she cherished to be hurt. Towards those who wanted to kill her and take her life, she could also be cold and merciless. But towards this kind of selfless and unconditional relationship between parents and children, she could not ignore it. It was one thing if she did not meet it, but now that she met it and they came begging, she would help if she could. Anyway, this kind of thing to her was just a matter of using her hands, but to others, it was a chance to live. Hearing this, the He couple was extremely emotional and hurriedly thanked. "Thank you, Ghost Doctor. Thank you, Ghost Doctor. We will immediately go back and tell this news to our son. Tomorrow we will definitely bring Ghost Doctor to our house." Both of them were extremely emotional. After thanking her profusely, they went back home, intending to tell this news to their son. The others watched the two of them leave. Someone opened his mouth and said, "Ghost Doctor." Before he could finish, he was interrupted. "Everyone, please go back. No matter if it is medicine or elixirs, I have not refined them recently and have nothing to sell to you. Furthermore, my elixirs and medicines will only be auctioned and will not be sold privately." Fengjiu stood up, patted her robes, and said to the city lord and his wife, "It is already late. I will go back and rest first." As she said that, she cupped her hands and bowed, then turned around and left. Duanyi also stood up when he saw this. He walked to Ninglang's side and put his hand on his shoulder. "Little fatty, let's go. We haven't seen each other for a long time. Let's have a good chat tonight." As he spoke, he directly pulled her away without caring about the consequences. Seeing this, the city lord and his wife exchanged a glance. Then, the city lord said to the others, "Everyone, I, Ning, will return the 100,000 gold coins my son received from all of you." He truly lacked consideration and was too disrespectful. "I, Ning, apologize to all of you again. I hope that everyone will forgive my son and not bicker with him. City Lord Ning's words are too serious. There is no need to return the 100,000 gold coins. Tonight, I can see the Ghost Doctor. Even if I can't get the medicine, this money is still worth it." As one of them spoke, he stood up and cupped his hands in greeting. He smiled and said, "I'll take my leave first. I'll visit again another day." "That's right. There's no need to return this 100,000 gold. It's not a lot of money, so let's leave it at that. We'll take our leave as well." The others also stood up and said with a smile. Chapter 9:61. As a result, everyone took their leave one after another. The city lord personally sent them out, and only after the guests had all left did he return inside and say to his wife, "I never thought that Langer would do such a thing after recognizing the Ghost Doctor's identity. Say, do you think this matter will really be let go? Lang should not have known the Ghost Doctor at first. I think the Ghost Doctor should be young Master Duan's friend. That's why they came here together." As the city lord's wife said that, she thought for a moment and said, "Let them settle this matter themselves. We cannot interfere too much in their matters." That's true. The city lord nodded and returned to the courtyard with his wife without saying anything else. On the other side, Duan Yi hugged Ninglang and asked, "Little fatty, you really cheated those people of 100,000 gold each? Also, how did you recognize Fengjiu as the Ghost Doctor? You didn't even tell me that you recognized him? You're not a good friend." Ninglang scratched his head and said embarrassedly, "You also know that I like money. Once there's an opportunity to earn money, I won't let it go." So, he looked at the tightly shut door and asked hesitantly, "Do you think it's better if I go in and apologize?" "Apologize? Ha!" Duan Yi laughed softly and patted him on the shoulder. Selling Fengjiu isn't something that can be settled with just an apology. Hurry up and go back to sleep. Isn't he still waiting for your answer? Think about it and tell him. I think it will be more useful than your apology." Hearing this, Ninglang frowned and nodded. "I understand. I will go back and think about it." As he said that, he wanted to turn around and leave. However, he still walked to the tightly shut door. "Fengjiu, I'm sorry. I went overboard tonight. I'm sorry. You must forgive me." As he said that, he did not hear any movement inside. Thus, he turned around and left. He returned to his courtyard and thought about whether he should go to the Hell Mountain Range. Initially, he had only promised to give the answer the next day to stall for time. He had wanted to keep the other party around so that he could earn some money. However, he had never expected things to turn out like this. He really shouldn't have done that. At that time, he had only thought of getting someone to send out those posts for 100,000 gold coins. He hadn't thought of the final outcome. Duan Yi watched Ninglang leave with his head lowered. After a long while, he knocked on Fengjiu's door and shouted, "Fengjiu, you still haven't told me how you became the ghost doctor?" However, there was still no sound from inside. Seeing this, he pushed the door but found that it was locked. He had no choice but to give up. "I'm going to the He family tomorrow. Don't disturb me. Go back and rest." Fengjiu's voice came from inside. He still did not open the door. "When you go to the He family tomorrow, remember to call me along. I'll go take a look too," he instructed before turning around and returning to his room. That night, for some people, they would not be able to sleep. However, for Fengjiu and Duanyi, once they rested, they fell into a deep sleep under the influence of alcohol. The next morning, the warm sunlight shone on the ground. The gentle light shone through the leaves and cast a shadow on the ground. A cool breeze blew, and the leaves swayed from the branches and fell to the ground in the courtyard. Chapter 962. At the same time, the He family head who had arrived early did not dare disturb him. He could only wait outside for him to wake up. After another hour, Fengjiu finally woke up. He remembered that he had to go to the He family to treat the He family's young master, so he got up to wash up. Not long after, he went out of the courtyard and called for Duanyi to bring some breakfast over. He ate while waiting for Duanyi. After another hour, the two of them finished eating and went to the front yard. They saw the He family head quickly greet them. "Ghost doctor. Sorry, I woke up late," she said apologetically. No, I came early," the He family head quickly said. Looking at the red-clothed youth in front of him, he respectfully said, "Ghost doctor, the carriage is ready. Ghost doctor and Duke Duan, please get on the carriage." Fengjiu nodded and walked out with him. The two of them got on a luxurious carriage. The He family head personally rode in front to lead the way. Some people who didn't know saw this scene and were surprised. They secretly asked around. About an hour later, they arrived at the He manor. Madam, he had already brought people to wait outside. When she saw them arrive, she quickly went to greet them. After bowing, she invited them in. "Ghost doctor, this is my Honger's courtyard. Because his legs are inconvenient and he can't get out of bed, he couldn't come out to greet you. I hope the ghost doctor won't take offense," the He family head said. "I won't." Fengjiu shook his head and walked in. Once inside, the smell of medicine entered her nose. The entire air was filled with an aura of death. She didn't need to look to know that this person was sick to the point of death. "Open the windows and doors for ventilation," she indicated. Hearing this, Madam, he quickly had people open the windows and doors. She walked with Fengjiu to the side of the bed. But this is the ghost doctor, young Master Feng. Quickly greet young Master Feng." "Greetings to young Master Feng. I can't get out of bed to greet you. I hope young Master Feng won't take offense." Fengjiu's gaze fell on the man lying on the bed. The man was around 25 years old. His face was thin and pale. When he spoke, his voice was weak. In contrast to his pale face, his lips were red like fire. Seeing this, she nodded her head. "Let me see your legs." Hearing this, the He family head walked forward and lifted the blanket on his son. The person under the blanket was only wearing a pair of short underwear. His two legs were shockingly swollen, and his skin was dark with a tinge of red. Seeing this, Fengjiu frowned slightly. She took a step forward and reached out to feel the temperature of his legs. Sure enough, it was as hot as fire. She frowned and looked at his legs. After a moment of thought, she said, "Lift up his shirt." Okay. The He family head hurriedly responded. He lifted his son's shirt and looked at Fengjiu. He didn't dare disturb him. Even though he was anxious, he could only watch silently. Fengjiu glanced at his abdomen and pressed down again. When she saw the man's pained expression, she withdrew her hand and said, "The fire poison is already attacking upwards. At this time, the fire poison in his internal organs has already spread. If he is not treated within 3 days, he will undoubtedly die." Madam, he heard this, and her leg went soft as she cried and begged, "I beg the ghost doctor to save my son. I beg the ghost doctor. I only have this one son." Chapter 963. Hearing this, family head He's heart was filled with joy as he hurriedly replied, Good. What medicine does the ghost doctor need? I'll immediately send someone to bring it over." He then walked out with him. Duan Yi, who was following behind, glanced at the person on the bed and thought to himself, how can he be cured when he's this sick? He really has some skills. Did you hear that? The ghost doctor said that nothing will happen. He said that nothing will happen. Madam, he wiped her tears and stayed in the room to accompany her son. At the same time, she shed tears of joy because of Feng Jiu's words. He Hong revealed a weak smile. Mother, don't cry. He knew his own situation and knew that he wouldn't be able to live. As for this ghost doctor that his parents had invited, he had never heard of him before. He only believed 30% of his words, especially when he was still so young. How could he completely believe the words of a teenager? Even so, he knew that his parents were worried and could only cooperate. He was neither sad nor happy because he had already prepared for the worst, which was death. Even if the end result was death, he didn't care. However, his heart was still worried about his parents, and he couldn't let go of them. He was the only son they had left. Thinking of this, the tears in the corners of his eyes couldn't help but flow out. They dripped onto the pillow and disappeared without a trace. Feng Jiu first prescribed a medicine for him and had them boil it. He also had him buy the medicine according to the prescription. Family head, he didn't dare delay and quickly ordered his trusted aide to boil the medicine. He picked the medicine that the manor had and personally went out to buy the medicine that they didn't have. Duan Yi had been following by Feng Jiu's side the entire time. Seeing that she had been busy for half a day, he sat down at the table and asked, "Are you sure you can cure him? I don't think it's easy to cure him. I've treated the bone-eroding wind poison before, so it can be cured. However, it took too long for him to fully recover, so it's impossible for him to fully recover in a short period of time. However, after using the medicine, his life can be saved. As for the fire poison in his body and the damage to his body, he can slowly recuperate." She poured a cup of tea and drank it as she explained to him. Hearing this, Duan Yi supported his baby face with one hand and looked at him in confusion. "You really came from a 7th-ranked country?" Feng Jiu softly laughed. "What? You don't believe me?" He nodded his head. "How could a small 7th-ranked country have someone like you?" He only softly laughed and didn't say anything else. Thus, he didn't ask anymore. After an hour, Patriarch, he walked in quickly with sweat all over his forehead. Ghost Doctor, I found all the herbs. Find me a quiet courtyard. I will concoct some medicine for you." She stood up and said, "Even Duan Yi was outside. With, this is a pill. 1 pill a day is enough. You'll be fine after you finish this pill." Telling him, "This, just finish it." She looked at the sky and asked, "After a few hours, your son should have a reaction after drinking the medicine, right?" Chapter 964. This is normal. He has fire poison in his body, so this is the only way to expel it. All right, it's getting late. I have to go." As she spoke, she glanced at Duan Yi at the side. Duan Yi stood up and walked to her side. Hearing that she was about to leave, Patriarch, he hurriedly said, "Ghost Doctor, please wait a moment." As he spoke, he gave an order in a low voice. Not long after, the housekeeper hurriedly brought something over. "Ghost Doctor, this is a treasure that I obtained by chance. It's just a token of my respect. I asked the Ghost Doctor to accept it." Feng Jiu originally wanted to say no, but when her gaze fell on the red cloth on the tray, her brows slightly moved, asking, "What is this?" "This is the red sky silk, an ancient treasure that my ancestors obtained by chance. It has always been kept in my He family." Patriarch, he said, looking at Feng Jiu, saying, "The Ghost Doctor saved my son, and I have no way to repay you. Knowing that the Ghost Doctor likes red clothes, I thought of this treasure in my house. Today, I present it to the Ghost Doctor. I hope the Ghost Doctor will accept it." Feng Jiu's eyes moved, reaching out her hand to take it. Of course, she knew about this red sky silk. It was a legendary treasure in the modern era. She never thought that there would be such a thing in the air. Mixed in the silk, it was 7 feet long and could not be cut by swords. It could be used to defend, attack, control, bind enemies, be used as a belt, or be used as a hand to tie the silk. It could be said that this treasure was really not bad. Since it is so, I will accept it. She revealed a smile as she spoke. Good, good. Patriarchy happily nodded, personally sending them out. Even if the red sky silk was an ancient treasure, it was rarely revealed in front of people in their house. The people in their house could not use it, nor did they dare to use it. If one did not have a certain level of strength and influence, who would dare to reveal such a treasure in front of people? Sitting in the carriage, seeing him playing with the red silk called a red sky silk, Duan could not help but curl her lips. This red silk is clearly a woman's plaything. I really don't know what good treasure it is. This red silk is indeed not suitable for everyone. Women are not picky, but not many men like this kind of thing. As she spoke, she raised her smiling eyes. However, I happen to like this kind of thing. 2 prescriptions and 1 bottle of medicine are enough to cure that person. His 2 legs are so swollen that it's scary. He frowned as he spoke. He hadn't seen it with his own eyes, so he still didn't quite believe it. However, the He couple treated Fengjiu like a god. They believed whatever he said. It was really strange. Returning to the city lord's mansion, they saw the fatty sitting at the door waiting for the 2 of them. Seeing him, the 2 of them looked at each other. Duan Yi went up and asked, "Little fatty, why are you sitting here? Don't call me little fatty again. Call me Ning Lang." He glared at Duan Yi with dissatisfaction and emphasized again. He then looked at Fengjiu with a fawning expression and said with a smile, "Fengjiu, I have something to tell you. And let's talk inside." She nodded and walked inside. The 2 people behind her hurriedly followed. No one noticed that the position of host and guest seemed to have been reversed. Even Duan Yi did not realize that he had unknowingly followed Fengjiu instinctively. Chapter 965. After saying this, he quietly paid attention to Fengjiu's expression. Seeing that his expression did not change and was still calm, he could not help but secretly feel relieved. Thinking about it, it did not matter if he went or not. If he did not go, they could still find someone else. Well, it should be like this. After Duan Yi heard his words, she glanced at him. She wanted to say something, but in the end, she just looked at Fengjiu and did not say anything. It doesn't matter. The Hell Mountain Range is really dangerous. It is normal for you to not go. Fengjiu nodded, expressing his understanding. Ha ha ha. I knew you would understand me. He patted his chest and grinned. Actually, I am very busy. I really can't leave. I have a lot of business to manage in the city, and there are also a lot of accounts to settle. I can't do it without me. Well, I know. She smiled and said, "That's all for now. I'm going to get busy. I'll accompany you to the city in the afternoon," he said with a happy smile. He got up and waved at the 2 of them, then walked out as if there was oil under the soles of his feet. After he left, Duan Yi looked at Fengjiu and asked, "How are you going to take him away?" Then, she felt a little strange. Why does it have to be him? Fengjiu took out a jade card and shook it in front of him. Because of this, seeing the identity jade card of the 2-Star Academy's instructor, Duan Yi sucked in a mouthful of cold air. Her baby face was full of surprise. She stared at him. You are also an instructor of the 2-Star Academy? Does this mean that you had a plan for me to come looking for you? What do you mean premeditated? I just had this plan. She shrugged her shoulders and said, I will tell you directly. Because of a certain matter, I have become an instructor of the 2-Star Academy. However, I'm not responsible for teaching the other students of the 2-Star Academy. I'm only responsible for you 4 troublesome thorns for a period of 1 year. Rest assured, after a year, I will take you back to the 2-Star Academy. And at that time, whether you stay in the academy or go home, I will not care about it. The people of the 2-Star Academy don't know that you are the ghost doctor, right? If they knew, he did not believe that they would let him come. Moreover, along the way, he felt that he was an unfathomable and dangerous person who said that the ghost doctor only knew about medicine and pills. When he killed people, he did not even blink an eye, okay? Fengjiu touched her chin and thought for a moment. They should not know. After a while, she stood up and said, Okay, you pack up. We'll leave when it gets dark. Otherwise, staying here for too long will cause too much trouble. Seeing him go out, Duan Yi called out, Where are you going? I'm going to talk to the city's lord. She didn't even turn her head as she waved her hand. She walked to the front and found the steward. The steward led her to the city lord's courtyard. The city lord and madam were in the middle of a discussion when they heard the housekeeper's report. They couldn't help but be startled. They hurriedly got up and went out to welcome the guest. Seeing the red figure in the courtyard, the husband and wife looked at each other and walked forward. "Young Master Feng, do you have any orders for us?" Feng Jiu smiled. "No, I have some things to discuss with the two of you." Chapter 966. Go and call the young master here. The city lord ordered the steward. Yes, the steward responded and quickly went to find Ning Lang. Not long after, Ning Lang came to the courtyard and saw his parents sitting at the table drinking tea. He came to sit beside them and asked, "Father, Mother, why are you looking for me? You only care about making money all day long. You don't even know how to take care of your body. Here, this is the soup I asked someone to stew for you." The city lord's wife gestured and pushed the stew on the table in front of him. "Mother is so nice." He smiled and squinted his small eyes. He opened it and drank it. When the city lord saw this, he coughed lightly. After he finished drinking, he said, "When you go out, be careful in everything. Listen to young Master Feng. If you encounter something you don't understand, ask. You can't be as willful as you are at home. Think twice before you do anything." Also, listening to his father's nagging, Ning Lang was a little confused. "Father, why are you telling me this? It's not like I'm going on a long trip." Why did these words sound so baffling? Remember what your father said. "Langer, you have to know that money isn't everything. Mother hopes that you can go out and gain experience. When you come back, you can change your greedy nature. Tell me, if your father hands over Ning City to you in the future, with your greedy nature, how can you do it? Not only will you not be able to control the servants, but I'm afraid you won't be able to resist the temptation of money," the city lord's wife said in a deep tone. She looked at him with worry in her eyes. "Mother, just—" He paused and shook his head. "Strange, why do I feel dizzy?" He looked at his parents and saw that the two people in front of him had turned into four shadows. He shook his head and tried to see clearly, but he still couldn't see. His head sank and he fell down. Seeing this, the couple looked at each other and sighed softly. They put the things they prepared for him on him and ordered, "Ask a few people to carry the young master into the carriage." "Yes," the steward responded and called 2 guards in to carry the young master into the carriage that had been prepared outside. On the other side, Feng Jiu and Duan Yi also walked out, just in time to see them help the unconscious fatty onto the horse carriage. Seeing this, Duan Yi's mouth twitched, and he glanced at Feng Jiu. He really did what he said and really took her away. At this moment, he strongly suspected that if he didn't agree to go with him, would he also be knocked unconscious and sent to the carriage like this? Thinking about it, it was indeed possible. "Young Master Feng, everything is ready." As City Lord Ning spoke, he glanced at the carriage and sighed. He then bowed to Feng Jiu and said, "My good-for-nothing son, I'll have to trouble young Master Feng. Rest assured, City Lord." She nodded slightly and got into the carriage with Duan Yi. The difference was that this carriage didn't have a driver. The driver could only be Duan Yi, who had changed out of his luxurious clothes. Because they quietly left through the back door, this inconspicuous carriage quietly left the city when the city gates closed. Even the other powers in the city didn't notice that they had left. After all, no one would have thought that he had just gone to the He Manor today and left in the evening. Moreover, he left through the back door. Chapter 967. The carriage traveled for an entire night. It wasn't until the next morning that Ning Lang woke up from the shaking of the carriage. The moment he woke up, he remembered what his parents had said and how he had fainted. Almost instinctively, he jumped up at the thought of this. However, because he was caught off guard, his head hit the carriage wall. Bang! Ouch! It hurts! At the same time a loud crash rang out. It was accompanied by the sound of him sucking in a sharp breath and crying out in pain. He covered his forehead with one hand and stared at the red-robed teenager who had his arms crossed over his chest and was resting with his eyes closed. Fengjiu, I already said I'm not going. What right do you have to bring me out? You actually want to encourage my parents to drug me? You're too despicable. He pointed his chubby finger at Fengjiu and cursed. Fengjiu slowly opened his eyes. There was coldness in his indifferent eyes. Ning Lang. With just one glance, Ning Lang felt guilty. He couldn't help but put down the hand he was pointing at Fengjiu. Even his eyes looked evasive. The anger in his belly turned into grievance. He curled his lips and sat down, turning his head away from Fengjiu. I already said I'm not going. Why did you still bring me out? You even used such a despicable method. He muttered softly, but he didn't dare to point at Fengjiu and scold him again. Duan Yi, who was driving the carriage outside, heard the commotion in the carriage. His heart moved slightly. The more time he spent with Fengjiu, the more he felt that he couldn't see through him. Sometimes he felt that he was quite easygoing, as if he could say anything. Sometimes he felt that he had a strange personality and wasn't easy to get along with. When his face turned cold, the aura on his body was strange and scary. Even he had obediently become a coachman under his orders, not to mention little fatty Ning. From the moment you stepped out of the house, you have to listen to me. Don't cause trouble for me. Otherwise, don't blame me for teaching you a lesson, she said coldly, then closed her eyes and didn't look at him anymore. Ning Lang opened his mouth a few times, but he didn't say anything. He looked at Fengjiu, who was resting with his eyes closed, and thought to himself, I'd better not fight with him. I'll find an opportunity to slip away. I don't believe that I can't go home. Thinking of this, he calmed down. He sat in the carriage and sized it up. Then, he lifted the curtain and saw that Duan Yi was wearing gray clothes. He couldn't help but laugh. Duan Yi, look at what you're wearing. Aren't you afraid of being laughed at by others for dressing like this? Duan Yi turned around and glanced at him with a straight face, then glanced at Fengjiu, who was resting with his eyes closed, and said, Don't mention my identity as a prince. All right, I won't say any more. He patted his shoulder and looked outside, asking, Where are we going? My whole body is aching from sitting in the carriage. When can we go to the inn to rest? I'll call you when we arrive. He drove the carriage faster. Seeing this, Ning Lang didn't say anything else. He shrunk back into the carriage and stared at Fengjiu, his mind working quickly. About 2 hours later, they entered town. When they arrived, Duan Yi found an inn and stopped the carriage. He jumped off the carriage and said to the two people in the carriage, We've arrived at the inn. Ning Lang was the first to jump out. His chubby body was quite agile. After getting off the carriage, he stretched and walked into the inn first. Boss, give me 3 of the best rooms. Chapter 968. When the people in the inn heard the voice, they all turned to look at the person who had just arrived. They saw that the person who walked in first was a chubby young man of 15 or 16 years old. He was dressed in an exquisite brocade robe. The golden light from his body made it hard for them to open their eyes. However, all of their gazes were fixed on him. At first glance, they could tell that he was a rich young master from a wealthy family. As they were thinking, they saw a young man in red walk in from behind. His red robe was dazzling like fire. His handsome face and outstanding temperament made people's eyes light up. They couldn't take their eyes off him. The young man exuded an aura of confidence between his brows. His quiet eyes hid a sharpness. His every movement exuded a wanton and ostentatious aura. His elegance and demonic charm blended together. He seemed both righteous and evil. He was incomparably noble. Beside the young man in red was a young man dressed in a gray robe. He had a baby face and looked like a child of 12 or 13 years old. His baby face was also extremely exquisite and outstanding. Although he was dressed in plain and unremarkable clothes, it couldn't hide the noble aura of the young man. It could be assumed that he was also a person of high status. Seeing these 3 people, the people in the inn had different thoughts. What a strange 3 young men. 3 young men with 3 different attitudes. No matter which one it was, they couldn't be compared to the young masters of ordinary families. They really didn't know where these 3 people came from. Why did they look like they didn't have any servants or strong masters protecting them? When the innkeeper of the inn saw the three people come in, he naturally knew that these three people weren't ordinary young masters. Therefore, he went up enthusiastically and personally greeted them. "Ha! 3 young masters, please go upstairs. There are rooms upstairs." Ning Lang slightly raised his chin and put his hands behind his back. He walked up the stairs with his feet splayed out. The young man had the attitude of a rich man. As he walked, he told the innkeeper, "I want a quiet room with a good view. Add 2 more layers of mattresses on the bed. It doesn't matter if the room is a little expensive. The most important thing is that I live comfortably." "Yes, yes." The shopkeeper responded with a smile on his face. After leading them to the guest rooms upstairs, he said, "The 3 rooms here are not together. They happen to be independent and close to this side. There's a lake at the back, and the view is excellent. The 3 of you, please take a rest first," the shopkeeper said as he turned around and walked out. He instructed the waiter to lay out 2 more layers of mattresses in their room and serve them tea and snacks before leaving. "Fengjiu, Duanyi will rest here tonight. We'll leave tomorrow morning." "Don't worry, I'm here. Ning Lang, will take care of everything along the way." He lifted his chin slightly and patted his chest. Fengjiu and Duanyi glanced at him before returning to their rooms to rest. After returning to his room, Fengjiu called out Swallow Cloud from the space and patted its head. "Secretly keep an eye on that little fatty." Roar. Tunyin let out a low howl and went to guard the door. If Ning Lang wanted to leave, it would be able to sense it from here. After the 3 of them ordered food, they asked someone to prepare water for them to take a bath. Then, they returned to their rooms to rest. Duanyi, in particular, had been rushing the carriage since last night and didn't have time to rest. Now that he lay on the bed, he fell asleep in no time. As for Fengjiu, he sat cross-legged and cultivated. Swallow Cloud, who was lying by the door, paid attention to the movements outside. Chapter 969. He softened his footsteps and held his breath as he quietly walked downstairs. When he reached the bottom of the stairs and was about to leave, he was called. "Young master, young master." The innkeeper called out with a smile, but his enthusiastic voice gave Ning Lang a fright. Ning Lang patted his chest and calmed his frightened heart. He turned around and glared at the innkeeper in a low voice. "Why are you so loud? Why are you calling me?" "Ha ha, young master. According to our inn's rules, you have to pay for the room for half a day in advance." "You see," the innkeeper came to his side and said. Hearing this, Ning Lang frowned and said, "Half a day in advance? Are you afraid that we don't have enough money?" No, it's because..." Before the innkeeper could finish, he was interrupted. All right. You can just ask the person in red to pay for the room for half a day later. I still have something to do and need to go out. Don't waste my time." He waved his hand as he spoke, completely forgetting that he had told Fengjiu and Duanyi that he would pay for the entire journey. Or perhaps he didn't forget at all, but his stingy personality made him happy to earn money. If he wanted to spend money, he would have to think about it. When the shopkeeper heard his words, he was stunned for a moment. He was a little confused as he looked at the chubby young man walking out. He thought that the young man's whole body was shining with golden light. He was rich from head to toe. He was very rich, but who knew that he would not even pay half of the money for the room? He thought perhaps he didn't have any money on him. He shook off this thought as soon as it appeared. How could such a young man not have any money on him? At this moment, he saw a little beast follow him out. He couldn't help but be stunned. Whose little beast? When did it come in? However, before he could regain his senses, the man and the beast had already disappeared. Shaking his head, he was just about to return to the counter when he saw the red-robed young man come down. Smiling, he walked up to him and said, "Young master, that young master just now said that you can pay for the room. According to the rules of the inn, when you check in, you have to pay for half a day's room first. What do you think?" He rubbed his hands together and looked at the red-robed young man with a smile. Hearing this, Fengjiu raised his eyebrows and curled his lips, revealing a devilish smile. He said, "He want me to pay for the room?" "Yes." The shopkeeper nodded. Fengzio's smile deepened. He took out 2 gold coins and tossed them to him. Is that enough? Enough, enough. The shopkeeper's face was full of smiles as he hurriedly nodded and smiled. Fengzio smiled and strode out. Relying on his contract with Devouring Cloud, he unhurriedly followed behind. At this moment, Ninglang didn't know that he was being watched not long after he left the inn. It wasn't Devouring Cloud who was secretly following behind him, nor was it Fengzio. It was a few independent cultivators. It could be said that they were being watched from the moment they entered the inn. The red-robed young man was handsome and devilish. The baby-faced young man had an air of nobility. As for the chubby little fatty, he had an air of wealth. His glittering gold outfit seemed to be telling others that he was rich, very rich. In addition, he didn't have any bodyguards accompanying him to protect him. He was only 15 or 16 years old. Naturally, he became a target. Chapter 970. Could it be that Fengzio and Duan Yi discovered that I've snuck away? As soon as this thought appeared, his back stiffened. Even his limbs stiffened as he walked. However, after walking for a while, he still couldn't hear their voices. Something didn't seem right. If the 2 of them saw that he had snuck away, they would definitely stop him. Then it wasn't them? Who's there? What are you sneaking around for? Bang! He abruptly turned his head and shouted. Who would have thought that when he turned his head, it wasn't someone's voice that responded to him. Instead, it was a heavy blow that came down on his face. The speed of the blow was so fast that he didn't even have time to dodge. He didn't even see who attacked him before he fainted. In the corner, Tunyin was about to pounce out when Fengzio stopped her. She carried Tunyin in her arms and retreated slightly. She watched as the cultivators looked around before they carried Ninglang away. Seeing this, she curled her lips into a smile and quietly followed behind those people. This little fatty was shrewd, but unfortunately, he was inexperienced and wasn't vigilant enough. He was only in the early stage of foundation establishment. When he encountered a rogue cultivator with a higher cultivation than him, he was completely defenseless. Oh no, it should be said that he didn't even have the chance to fight back. He fainted immediately after being hit by the club. She followed them to a slum. This was a place where the poor, rogue cultivators with missing arms and legs, as well as some extremely vicious people lived. Groups of burly men squatted on the ground in the streets and alleys. Some of them held wine jugs in their hands as they drank, while others sat in a circle and gambled. When she walked in, dressed in red, these people's gazes fell on her. They followed her closely, sizing her up and probing her. The poor commoners only had a few elderly and children left. Young women couldn't stay in a place like this because it was too chaotic. As a result, it could be said that there wasn't a single woman in this place. Of course, there were only a few fat and ferocious-looking female cultivators. Due to the poverty of this area, the place appeared to be somewhat dirty and messy. Garbage could be seen everywhere on the streets and alleys. The dilapidated houses had a faint feeling of looseness, as if they would collapse with a strong push. It looked very dangerous. As she walked with Tunyin in her arms, her divine sense locked onto the few people who were carrying Ninglang in front of her. Thus, she was not afraid that she would not be able to find them. Her pace was not fast, and she looked around from time to time. She frowned when she saw 2 4- or 5-year-old children playing with bare feet under the wall. This world was just so unfair. Some people lived in luxurious palaces, while others didn't even have a place to stay. Some people ate delicacies, while others starved and became as thin as a match. You too come here. She stopped and waved her hand with a smile, indicating for the 2 children to come over. Although the 2 children were only 4 or 5 years old, they were still on guard. They looked at the cute little pet in Fengzio's arms with envy and curiosity in their eyes, but they didn't dare to go over. Instead, they leaned against the wall and scratched the wall with their fingers. From time to time, they would sneak glances at Fengzio. Seeing this, Fengzio took out a box of desserts from his space and took out a piece. Look, I have desserts. Come over, and I'll give it to you. Chapter 971. Seeing this, Feng Jiu's lips curled into a smile. Don't play by that wall in the future, okay? The two children nodded as if they understood. They stared fixedly at the pastries in her hands and gulped. Here, this is for you. She saw that the two children's hands were very dirty, so she didn't hand them directly. Instead, she put the pastries back into the box and handed the box of pastries to the two children. Take it home and eat it. The two children seemed to be in disbelief. They stared blankly at the godlike person in front of them and couldn't help but ask in a small voice, Are you giving it to us? Yes, it's all for you. She placed the pastries in their hands and said, Go home. The two children smiled happily. After receiving the pastries, they quickly ran away without even thanking her, as if they were afraid that she would go back on her word. Feng Jiu smiled, and only then did she lead Tun Yun in search of those people. In a dilapidated mud house, a few strong men threw Ning Lang onto the ground. One of them panted and wiped his sweat. This kid is as heavy as a pig. I'm exhausted after carrying him for so long. Hurry up and take off all the valuable things from him, another person said. As the other person spoke, he had already started rummaging through Ning Lang's body. He took off his jade pendant, golden belt, and the rings on his fingers. The three of them then began to divide the items among themselves. This kid has quite a lot of things on him. Come, this is for you. This is mine. This is for you. Feng Jiu peeked through the crack in the wall and watched the three of them divide the loot. Then, he glanced at the unconscious Ning Lang and shook his head helplessly. This kid's clothes should be worth quite a lot of money if we sell them. Let's take off his clothes and sell him. We can still make a profit, one of them suggested. That's right. The material of these clothes is very valuable. After we take them off, give him a piece and quickly sell it. Another person nodded in agreement. As a result, the three of them really did take off all of his clothes. Then, they found an old and smelly set of clothes and put it on him. Since it's still early, let's put him in a sack and sell him. We'll take the small paths and alleys so that we won't attract any attention. As they spoke, the three of them found a sack and put Ning Lang in it. Then, they carried him on their shoulders and were about to leave. However, when the door opened, they were startled. In front of the dilapidated door stood a man in red with a white pet in his arms. His handsome face, evil aura, and noble temperament formed a strong contrast with the dilapidated house. It was as if an immortal had fallen into the mortal world by mistake. No matter how one looked at it, he did not belong here, nor did he belong to this dilapidated slum. However, the three of them quickly regained their senses after being startled. The three of them glared at him with dark and ferocious faces and shouted, Who are you? What are you doing here? Actually, they recognized him. He was in the same group as the fat man. They had come in the same carriage. However, they did not expect the young man in red to find this place. How did he find his way here? They did not even know that he was following them. Chapter 972. Hearing this, they stared at him warily. One of them clenched his fists and suddenly stepped forward to throw a punch. Since you're here, I'll take care of you too. However, the fist that contained hidden power was kicked away by Feng Jiu before it could even touch her. His entire body flew backward and crashed into the things in the room before falling directly to the ground. Perhaps because he couldn't catch his breath, he actually lay flat on the ground with his eyes wide open. After a while, he finally got up. Go! With a fierce shout, Ning Lang, who was originally carried on his shoulder, was also thrown directly to the ground. The sound of a heavy object falling to the ground was heard. The three of them surrounded Feng Jiu together. Their attacks were swift and fierce, faintly containing killing intent. However, among the three of them, two of them were in the early stage of the Foundation Establishment stage, while the other was in the middle stage of the Foundation Establishment stage. They could deal with Ning Lang, but against Feng Jiu, they were not just a little bit weaker. The three of them only saw a red shadow sweep past, and a powerful and fierce aura instantly filled the small earthen room. The aura of a golden core cultivator shocked the three of them, and their faces turned pale. The other party's speed was too fast, and they couldn't even resist. They instinctively wanted to escape, but the door in front of them was blocked by the red-clothed youth. One of them flew, intending to escape through the broken window at the back. Unexpectedly, just as he was about to flee through the window, a low growl sounded. Swallowing Cloud instantly pounced out and bit that person's calf, directly dragging him back. Hiss! Ah! My leg! Fresh blood seeped out, and the aura of death enveloped them, causing their hearts to tremble. They looked at the red-clothed youth who was leaning against the door with his arms crossed over his chest in fear and shock. "We'll return the things to you. We'll return the people to you. Don't kill us, don't kill us." The three of them panicked and took out all the things they had on them and piled them on the ground. Things like gold belts, gold and jade rings, jade pendants, and the like were all piled up on the ground one by one, forming a small mountain of things. Compared to money, they wanted to live more. If they didn't even have their lives, it would be useless no matter how much money they had. Not running anymore? Fengjiu glanced at them. His lazy voice was cold. Don't run, don't run." The three of them hurriedly said, looking at the young man in front of them, their hearts trembling with fear. Tun Yin let go of the man's leg and bared its sharp teeth as it let out a low, threatening growl. Only then did it return to Fengjiu's side. "Have you shaken off everything on your body? It's all clean. We've even taken out all the things we had before. There's really nothing left." The three of them hurriedly spoke as they flipped through their clothes for him to see, proving that they didn't dare to leave anything on their bodies that the fatty was afraid of. "Just now, you said you were going to sell him? Where in the city is there human trafficking?" She raised her eyebrows and asked. When the three of them heard this, their hearts trembled. No, we don't dare to sell him. We don't dare to sell him." "I'm asking a question. Where are the buyers and sellers? What kind of people were buying and selling people? Speak clearly." Seeing that he wasn't going to blame them, the three of them gathered their courage and said, "It's the underground market in the city. There's a slave market there. We originally wanted to sell him to make some money." Hearing this, Fengjiu curled his lips and said with a smile, "If that's the case, then do as you originally planned." The three of them were stunned and asked, What do you mean?" Chapter 973. Seeing that the three of them were stunned on the spot, she said again, "That's right. Sell him according to your original plan. After selling him, I'll give you the money. Anyway, hurry up and sell him. Hurry up and carry him away, in case he wakes up later." Seeing that she was not joking, the three of them could only hurriedly get up and carry the fat man in the sack. Just as they were about to carry him out, they heard the young man in red's voice again. "Wait." Fengjiu seemed to have thought of something. He walked forward and said, "Put him down first." The three of them did not dare to ask, and hurriedly did as he said. They opened the sack, revealing the fat man in tattered clothes. Seeing the unconscious fat man, Fengjiu curled his lips. With a flick of his finger, he used a silver needle to seal the spiritual aura in the fat man's body. Then he said, "All right, carry him away." Yes. The three of them looked at each other and were secretly shocked. They hurriedly carried the fat man and limped out. Fengjiu put everything on the ground into a chinquin bag and put it into the space. Then he took Tun Yin and followed behind the three of them. Didn't he want to slip away? She wanted to see how Ning Lang would react when he woke up and found out that he had been sold. The three brawny men knew that the red-robed young man was following them, so they didn't dare to delay. They directly carried the red-robed young man to the underground market and found the manager who was in charge of the transaction. "We'll sell this person to you. Give us a price." The three of them wanted to leave, but when they thought of how they had emptied their family savings, they resisted the urge to leave. They thought that they could at least earn some money back. "Who are you?" The manager glanced at them and kicked them. He looked at the three of them and asked, "Is it a man? Men aren't worth much here." The three of them gulped and said, "It's a young man. He's fair and chubby and is quite likable. Take a look at the goods first." As they spoke, they opened the sack and revealed Ning Lang's head. The in-charge went forward to take a look. The 15 or 16-year-old youth was indeed fair and chubby, with a face full of good fortune. He didn't have any aura of spiritual power on him, so he thought that he was probably a child from an ordinary family. Thus, he nodded. This fellow looks all right. How about this? I'll give you 200 silver coins. 200 silver coins? The three of them were stunned. Then they said, this fellow is so good, he's not worth 200 silver coins. We don't want much. Just add another 100 silver coins. Just enough for us 300 silver coins. Hearing this, the steward glanced at the three of them and waved his hand. All right, I'll give you 300 silver coins. Go over there and get the money. As he spoke, he waved his hand and called for a person to come over, and the three of them went over there to get the money. In his daze, Ning Lang seemed to have heard them discussing some goods that were worth 300 silver coins. When he heard that there was business, his dazed mind instantly sobered up. He immediately asked, what goods? Let me take a look. The manager who stood to the side. A little fatty like you dares to call yourself a young master? Stop daydreaming. As he spoke, he raised his voice and shouted, two of you, wash this fellow and change his clothes. Then, lock him up with the other young man. Ning Lang was stunned. He jumped up. What are you talking about? Lock him up with what? As soon as he ran out of the sack, he was held down. Chapter 974. Ning Lang was dumbfounded. He was stunned and in disbelief. 300 silver coins? Who sold me out? I'm only worth 300 silver coins? Are you kidding me? Come back. That skinny guy who's as thin as a monkey, come back. Come back and explain yourself. The steward, who had already walked a few meters away, heard the words coming from behind him. His face darkened. He turned around and walked forward with his hands behind his back. He stared at Ning Lang gloomily. Fatty, who did you say looked like a monkey just now? Ning Lang was also someone who knew how to read the situation. Seeing the skinny guy's gloomy face, he couldn't help but be secretly shocked. The other party was a cultivator in the middle stage of the Foundation establishment realm. He didn't dare to provoke him. He steadied his mind and said, let me go. I can give you money. The steward looked him up and down, his eyes full of contempt and disdain. Give me money? You're only left with this fat and this shabby, smelly clothes. Where did you get the money? He glared angrily. Just as he was about to speak, he finally realized that something was wrong. The spiritual power in his body seemed to have completely disappeared. He was like an ordinary person. His foundation establishment, realm cultivation, seemed to have completely disappeared. This made him a little flustered, and he swallowed the words he wanted to say. He was the young master of Ning City, and his net worth was unimaginable. However, if he told these people his identity, wouldn't he be in more danger? Just as he was thinking, the steward waved his hand. Take him away and watch him carefully. There's an auction tonight. When the time comes, send them all up. This kid is white and fat. I believe there will be people who like him. Hearing this, Ning Lang's eyes widened. What do you mean by that? I'm warning you, don't mess around. You'd better let me go quickly, or you'll regret it. Do you hear me? Let me go quickly. Let you go? Dream on. The steward pinched his chubby face with a smile. Fatty, it seems that you usually eat well. You've grown more fat than others. Old thing, how dare you take advantage of your grandfather? Is my face something you can pinch? Ning Lang was enraged. Since his hands were held down, he lifted his leg and kicked. Fortunately, the steward dodged quickly. Otherwise, his crotch would have been kicked. The steward, who had dodged the punch, had a dark expression on his face. He clenched his fists and rubbed them against each other, making cracking sounds. The next moment, he swung his fist and punched Ning Lang hard in the stomach. With a bang, Ning Lang let out a muffled groan. His face turned red and his body shrunk slightly. It was as if he couldn't catch his breath and couldn't speak for a long time. You still dare to be wild here? I think you need to be taught a lesson. Don't worry about him for now. Lock him up in the 9th cage to temper his spirit. I want to see how wild he can be in the 9th cage. He gave a heavy snort, flicked his sleeves, and left. The two burly men brought Ning Lang, who had curled up into a ball, to the cage marked with the word 9. They opened the iron cage, pushed him in, and locked it. What are you doing? Let me out! Let me out! Bastard! Let me out! Chapter 975. In this iron cage that was only the size of small room, there were 11 ferocious-looking strong men, either squatting or sitting. These people were bare-armed and only wore a pair of shorts. Their arms, waists, and abdomens were muscular, and the scars on their bodies were crisscrossed. Each of them looked like a bloodthirsty demon. At this moment, these people were staring at him with unkind eyes. Ning Lang, who was originally shouting and cursing, saw that the situation was not right. He could not help but shrink into a corner and look at them vigilantly. The big man, sitting in the middle, raised his chin and signaled. The strong men on both sides stood up, clenched their fists, cracked their necks, and approached step by step. What? What do you want to do? Ning Lang retreated, but found that there was nowhere to go. What do we want to do? Since you're here, of course, we have to teach you the rules. One of them snorted coldly. Two figures stepped forward and grabbed Ning Lang's shoulders, one on the left and one on the right. They twisted Ning Lang's hands and pushed him forward. Don't mess around. I have money. I can give you money, he said hurriedly. Money? Ha ha, what a joke. What do we need money for? The man laughed out loud. Unexpectedly, he clenched his fist and punched Ning Lang's abdomen. He leaned close to Ning Lang's ear and said, Little fatty, let your grandfather teach you a lesson. In this place, money is useless to us. Do you understand? As long as you're strong, you'll be the boss even in this cage. Bang! As he spoke, another punch landed. He beat Ning Lang like a sandbag. One punch after another, one punch after another. The force was mixed with hidden force. Bang! 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 Ning Lang's painful cries and muffled groans rang out in the iron cage and spread to the surroundings. However, this kind of thing was too common in this place. No one cared at all. They were just watching a good show. After all, they were not the ones being beaten. Ah, stop hitting me. His face was red, and there were traces of blood at the corner of his mouth. Because he was being pulled into the iron cage, there were a few bruises on his face. The pain in his body made him curl up. The people here were either great spiritual masters, great martial masters, or foundation-building cultivators. He did not have spiritual power now. Even if he did, he could not beat so many people alone. In the past, no one dared to beat him up no matter where he was. Today, he was caught and sold here. He was even beaten up. He was angry and sullen in his heart. For the first time, he realized that he had left home and no one to protect him. He could not protect himself. Just as these people had said, there was no point in asking for money when they were locked up in such a place. For the first time in his life, his heart wavered. Of his teeth. In the dark, Fengjiu watched this scene quietly. She watched him curl up on the ground with his head in his hands like a small animal. She saw the anger and sullenness in his eyes. She saw the confusion in his eyes. She didn't step forward, nor did she stop them, because those people's beatings were only superficial wounds and wouldn't be fatal. She wanted to teach him a lesson, give him a warning, and let him understand why he was in such a situation. Chapter 976. She retracted her gaze and turned towards the manager of the underground market on the other side. She asked, "Are you in charge of this place?" The manager was drinking tea when he suddenly heard this voice. He raised his head to take a look and saw that the young man was handsome and had an extraordinary temperament. He then put down the teacup in his hand and asked with a smile, "I am in charge of all the goods here. Does young master want to buy a few servants? What do you want? I can get someone to introduce them to young master." Fengjiu looked at him and said, "Keep an eye on the little fatty that was just sent here. Don't kill or cripple him." Hearing this, the manager's smile disappeared. He looked at him from head to toe and asked, "Young master, what do you mean by this? Don't you understand? He is one of my people. I want to borrow your hands to teach him a lesson. But don't kill or cripple him. Do you understand now? Young master really knows how to joke. All the goods here are bought with money. Just now we bought a little fatty. But how can he be one of young master's people? Moreover, That little fatty is of great use to us. We bought him for 300 silver coins. If we sell him, it will be more than 300 silver coins. Feng Jiu curled his lips. You are not the one making the decisions here. Go, call out the person in charge. Hearing this, he was unhappy and his face darkened. Where did this little brat come from? Don't you know where you are? How dare you come here and cause trouble? Men, throw him out. Get out. The 4 cultivators surrounded Feng Jiu, and one of them stepped forward, wanting to grab Feng Jiu's collar and drag him out. Unexpectedly, the young man lazily looked up, and his cold eyes were filled with pressure. The aura and pressure of an expert spread out in an instant, and the cultivator only felt a wave of killing intent. Cold fear surged from the soles of his feet to his heart. The strong impact and pressure made him tremble. At the same time, cold sweat seeped out of his forehead. His legs went soft, and he fell to the ground with a bang. All of the people present were cultivators, and there were even 2 foundation establishment cultivators among them. Even the steward was a mid-foundation establishment cultivator. When they saw the pressure released by the red-clothed youth, they were extremely shocked, and their eyes were filled with shock and astonishment. How could a 16 or 17-year-old young man have such a terrifying pressure and aura? What was the background of this young man? Who are you? The manager knew that the other party was not ordinary. He did not dare to fight force with force and could only ask in a trembling voice. A golden core cultivator was not frightening. However, a 16 or 17-year-old golden core cultivator was extremely frightening. What kind of talent did he have to be able to cultivate to the golden core stage at the age of 16 or 17? Feng Jiu lazily glanced at him. His indifferent voice was cold. You don't have a right to know. If he had heard this just now, the manager would definitely have scolded him. However, at this moment, seeing that he had made a foundation establishment cultivator fall to the ground without even lifting a finger, he did not dare to show any signs of neglect or dissatisfaction. This was how the world worked. If you displayed great strength, you would naturally receive the respect and courtesy of others. As for the weak, no one would take them seriously. Chapter 977. Young master, have some tea first. I'll go invite the chairman. As the steward spoke, he had someone bring him some tea before retreating. Feng Jiu tapped the table lightly with one hand, making a knocking sound. She looked around the hall and felt the presence of 2 auras. The corners of her lips curled up slightly. Tun Yun lay by her feet without moving, as obedient and docile as a kitten. The servant brought the tea and retreated. There was no one else here, so it was rather quiet. She picked up the tea and took a sip, sitting quietly as she waited. Not long after, she saw a middle-aged man walk in under the steward's lead. Young master, this is the chairman of our underground market, the steward said, then retreated to the side. The middle-aged man had been sizing up Feng Jiu from the moment he stepped into the hall. It could be said that he recognized who she was at first glance. While he was pleasantly surprised, he was also puzzled. Why had the ghost doctor come to their place? I didn't know. It was young Master Feng. My apologies, my apologies. He cupped his hands in greeting and looked at Feng Jiu with a face full of smiles. His gaze was fervent as he asked, May I know why young Master Feng is here? If there's anything this Lin can help with, please don't hesitate to ask. This Lin will definitely not refuse. When a steward saw the chairman's fervent and fawning attitude and tone, he couldn't help but be shocked. His legs turned to jelly. He wiped away the cold sweat on his forehead as he stole glances at the red-clothed youth, trying to guess his identity. What young Master Feng? The chairman didn't even have such a good attitude and tone when meeting the family heads of some of the clans in the city. Why was he like this when facing this youth? Who was this person? Thinking about how he had almost offended him, he couldn't help but lower his head and quietly retreat. He didn't dare to appear in front of him again, in case he mentioned what had just happened. If that happened, he would be in trouble. She didn't find it strange that the president here recognized her. The black market had told her that her portrait had been circulated among the various forces and family heads. Ordinary people wouldn't be able to recognize her, but those in charge would definitely have her portrait in their hands. Thinking about how these people kept her portrait, she sighed in her heart. She felt strange, as if she was a wanted criminal. I was just passing by and happened to run into some trouble. I'll have to trouble President Lin. She spoke slowly while sizing up the person sitting in the main seat. When he heard this, he was a little surprised. He didn't expect that there really was a problem. After all, he knew that the relationship between the ghost doctor and the black market was not ordinary, and there was a branch of the black market in this city. He thought that even if there was a problem, he would go to the black market. He did not expect that there would be something that would require his help. For a moment, he was overjoyed and asked, "What is it?" "Young Master Phone, please speak your mind." "It's like this, I have a friend." She explained the situation simply, wanting to use this opportunity to give the fatty a warning and an unforgettable experience. Hearing her words, President Lin nodded and said with a smile, "This is a small matter. Young Master Phone, don't worry. I'll arrange it in a moment. Young Master Feng's friend is here, don't worry. I'll have people keep an eye on him. There won't be any big problems." Chapter 978. Young Master Feng is too polite. He stood up and returned the greeting, asking, "It's inconvenient for young Master Feng to stay in the inn now. Do you want me to arrange a place for young Master Feng to stay? We won't be staying here for long, so there's no need to trouble yourself." "All right then, I'll see young Master Feng out." As he spoke, he personally saw him out. Only after he left did he take a look at cage number 9. Seeing that the chubby young man was beaten black and blue, with a face full of grievance and anger, his eyes couldn't help but flash. If the ghost doctor didn't mention it, he wouldn't have been able to tell that this little fatty in shabby clothes was actually the son of Song Country's #1 rich man, Ning Yuan, Ning Lang. He had some friendship with Ning Yuan, but he had never seen his son before. He didn't expect it to be under such circumstances. Seeing the kid's face full of grief and anger, he smiled, shook his head, and walked away. It was time for him to suffer a little. "President." The steward walked up and looked at him fawningly. "Keep an eye on that little fatty. He's the son of an old friend of mine." Hearing this, the steward was shocked. Thinking that he had beaten up that little fatty earlier, he couldn't help but break out in cold sweat, asking, Then should I bring that little young master out?" "No need, just let him stay there. Don't let him know that there's any special treatment for him. Do what you should do. However, he can't have any major problems, otherwise, you won't be forgiven," he said in a low voice, his words carrying a hint of warning. "Yes, yes," the steward hurriedly responded. After he left, he was so scared that he sat on the ground. Why was he so unlucky today? Shocks came one after another. His heart couldn't take it anymore. It was all those 3 people's fault. They actually caused him such trouble. On the other side, when Feng Jiu returned to the inn, Duan Yu was already waiting on the first floor. Seeing that Feng Jiu had returned, he asked, "Did little fatty really run away?" "He ran away." She nodded and smiled. She sat down at the table and poured herself a cup of water to drink. "You didn't catch up to him?" "That's impossible. With his skills, he couldn't catch up to Ning Lang. I caught up to him, but I didn't bring him back." "Why didn't you bring him back?" he asked in confusion. Feng Jiu smirked. "Because he was sold and locked up in a cage." "What? Was he sold?" His voice was so loud that the surrounding people looked over in shock. Duan Yi ignored the others on the first floor. Instead, he looked at Feng Jiu and asked, "How did he get sold?" In any case, he was a foundation establishment cultivator. Moreover, that brat was very smart. It's possible that he sold it to someone else, but how could he be sold by someone else? I followed him from behind and saw that he was targeted as soon as he left the inn. That brat also walked through a small alley and was knocked unconscious by 3 cultivators with wooden clubs and carried away. After that, he was sent to the underground market to be sold as goods. She said nonchalantly. When she thought of the miserable look on the little fatty's face after being beaten up, she couldn't help but smile. Someone had to teach him a lesson. Duan Yu was a little stunned when he heard that. He stared at him with a strange gaze. "What do you want to do? Don't tell me you want to take the opportunity to teach him a lesson?" Knowing that he was sold, He didn't save him and was still smiling here. What was he up to now? Chapter 979. Duan Yi slapped his hand away and glared at him. Don't get physical with each other. Ha ha. Feng Jiu laughed and patted him on the shoulder. That's why I said that you're tactful. Hearing this, Duan Yi's mouth twitched. He was tactful, or else he would have been tortured by him. All right, he didn't deny this point. Other than Little Fatty, the other two were not as easy to fool as Little Fatty. Just like that, they settled down in the inn with good food and good accommodation. As for Ning Lang, he was locked in a cage and starved for a day. Until the next morning, he was brought to the mountain behind the underground market to mine ores and move them around. The sun was shining on his head and his back was sweaty. The skin on his hands and feet were scraped and blistered. He was so hungry and tired that his whole body ached. The bruises on his face had not subsided and were stained with dust. He was in a very sorry state. Woo, I quit. I don't have any strength. I can't move. He sat down on a rock and cried like a child. Father, mother, sob, sob. Save me. The people outside are not good people. It's too dangerous outside. I've been sold. Sob. Father, mother, I want to go home. Shio. A whip lashed out with a swoosh and landed on a rock beside him with a smack. A stern voice rang out. What are you howling for? Get up and continue working. Woo. I haven't eaten. My stomach. I can't move. Ning Lang sniffed and shrank his body. He looked at the fierce-looking man. He had been beaten up since yesterday and was a little scared. Who dared to beat him at home in the past? Sure enough, the people outside were not good people. The outside world was too dangerous. It was safer to hide at home. Hungry? Come with me. The man glanced at him and turned to leave. Hearing this, Ning Lang quickly stood up and limped along with him until they came to a small shed. He saw the man scoop a bowl of food from a bucket and handed it over. Eat. Hurry up and do your work after eating. Ning Lang reached out and took it. When he saw the bowl of porridge that couldn't be any thinner and had a strange taste, his face was full of shock. This is for pigs. How could this be eaten by humans? Can this fill our stomachs? You're still complaining? The burly man snorted and looked at him contemptuously. People like you who want to be capable, but don't have the ability, can only do some heavy work and eat the leftovers. What do you mean I'm not capable? I know how to do business, I know how to do accounts, I know how to make money. I'm still an early-stage foundation establishment cultivator. He wiped his tears and roared in dissatisfaction. Business? Settle accounts? Make money? An early-stage foundation establishment cultivator? Gee, he sneered and said, Brat, let your grandpa teach you. In this world, only the strong are respected. No matter how good you are at doing business, no matter how much money you earn with your meager early foundation establishment cultivation, can you protect yourself? As long as someone is stronger than you, they can take your life at any time and take your hard-earned money. Do you understand? Only strength is the most reliable. Chapter 980. Looking at the little fatty in front of him who was in a daze, the burly man had a fierce expression on his face, but he was cursing in his heart. His superiors didn't give him any tasks, but they gave him such a lousy task. He couldn't hit, touch, or knock into anything, and he had to teach him like a son. He had never received such a task before. This was even more frustrating than having him carry a big rock. Are you going to drink it or not? If you don't, go back and carry a rock. The burly man shouted in a rough voice and glared at him. Ning Lang bit his lip with tears in his eyes. He punched the bowl with a missing corner with both hands, feeling very wronged. His servants didn't even use such a broken bowl, nor did they drink such thin porridge. However, he was doing heavy work, and this was the only thing he could eat. Do you have steam buns or something like that? I won't be full if I eat like this. No, it's up to you whether you want to eat or not. The burly man glared and shouted. If it were any other time, he would have lashed out with the whip. Rumble, his stomach growled. Ning Lang looked at the bowl in his hand and could only drink it with his eyes closed. After drinking the bowl, he felt as if he had drunk a bowl of water. He licked the corner of his mouth and stared at the bucket. I want more. Although it wasn't delicious, it was better than being hungry. More? What do you think this is? No more, go to work. The burly man snatched the bowl from his hand and put it behind him. He pushed him forward. Go to work. Ning Lang glared at him. Why can't you let me have enough of this thin porridge? Puffed. Don't think about it. It's fine as long as you don't starve to death. You want to drink enough? Do you think this is your home? The big man gave him a shove, and the whip in his hand lashed at his side. Go. Ning Lang gritted his teeth and glared at him. He thought to himself, just you wait. Why get out of here? I'll teach you a lesson. At a place not far away, Feng Jiao and Duan Yi were watching, and the two of them had different expressions when they saw this scene. The former was teasing, while the latter was shocked. How long do you plan to keep him here? Duan Yi looked at Feng Jiao and asked. When he can't take it anymore. She curled her lips. It seems that he still has some strength now. The corners of Duan Ye's mouth twitched when he heard that. He looked at Ning Lang, who was being ordered to move rocks. He was wearing tattered clothes and a pair of broken shoes. His hair was disheveled and his face was bruised and swollen. Who told him to sell out his identity as the ghost? Doctor, the moment he saw Feng Jiao. From the moment he found out about that matter, he knew that this brat would suffer. He didn't expect that this brat would be waiting for him here. Let's go. Let's find a place to drink. Feng Jiao called Duan Yi and turned to leave. They came and left quietly, and Ning Lang, who was not far away, did not know anything. 3 days later, in the morning, Ning Lang, who was still sleeping, was woken up by the two of them. They dragged him to the bathroom, changed him into a set of luxurious clothes, and dressed him from head to toe. Ning Lang was shocked from beginning to end. When he saw someone putting powder on his pale face that was thinner than a few days ago, he couldn't help but cry out. What do you want? What we want. There are people coming to the brothel to pick young people. They like people like you who are 15 or 16 years old. Just right. We can sell you at a high price. The manager who walked in said with a smile, but his heart was weak. Chapter 981. You don't want it? Even if you don't want it, you still have to take it. The steward gestured for someone to escort him to the front, while he wiped off his sweat and hurriedly followed behind. No, I don't want to be sold to a brothel. I want to go home. I want to go home. He struggled and shouted, but he had not eaten for a few days, and his cultivation was sealed, so he appeared to be weak and powerless, and was forcefully escorted forward by two cultivators. When he reached the front of the field, he was once again locked into a metal cage. In this metal cage, there were 5 to 6 youths who were 15 to 16 years old, and their appearances were more outstanding than the average youths. Furthermore, they were all dressed up, all wearing new clothes, and looked neat and tidy. He looked at the few youths and could not help but have a worried expression. Don't tell me I really have to be sold to those places? Just as he was feeling uneasy, he suddenly saw 2 familiar figures. Seeing them, his eyes immediately surged with joy, and both his hands tightly grasped the door of the metal cage, shouting outside, Feng Jiao, Feng Jiao, Duan Yi, save me, save me. I'm here, I'm here. The 2 people who were talking seemed to have inadvertently heard him, and turned around to look. When their gazes landed on the figure locked in the metal cage, Duan Yi took large strides forward, and Feng Jiao slowed down by half a step. Little fatty, why are you here? Duan Yi looked at the person locked in the cage with a face full of astonishment, as if he did not know anything, and asked in confusion and astonishment. Woo! Duan Yi, I've been sold. His eyes reddened, and looked at Feng Jiao, who was slowly walking over. Feng Jiao, I shouldn't have snuck away. These people aren't good people. They didn't even give me food to eat, and even made me do heavy work. Look at my blisters. Feng Jiao stopped in front of the metal cage, and looked at the youth who had obviously lost weight in the past few days, and asked with a smile, Why didn't you tell them that you have money, and ask them to let you go? I did, but they didn't believe me. He said in grievance, Don't you also have a certain level of cultivation to protect yourself? Why didn't you escape? I can't escape. My cultivation has been sealed. Seeing that he was clearly smiling, but there was no smile in his eyes, and seeing that he did not say that he would save him, he could not help but feel fearful. Fengjiu, you'll save me, right? From the moment you escaped, I had nothing to do with you. Perhaps you can escape with your own abilities. No, I can't get out. He slightly lowered his head, somewhat not daring to meet his eyes. Save me and get me out. Are you obedient now? She raised her eyebrows and asked. Teat test. Teat. Where? Yes. Why are you still here? Are you looking for me? Ninglang looked at Duan Yi, who was standing outside, and asked. Duan Yi glanced at him and said, No. Fengjiu said that there's no need to look for you since you've left. We heard that there's a local market here today, so we came to take a look. Ninglang was silent and lowered his head. Not long after, Ninglang saw the manager, who was as skinny as a monkey, trotting over, bending over with a fawning expression as he followed Fengjiu. Seeing this completely different attitude, he sighed in his heart. Chapter 982. They brought him to the restaurant and ordered 12 dishes. Before all the dishes were served, they saw Ning Lang sitting down with a starving look on his face. He scooped a spoonful of rice and began to eat in big mouthfuls, not even bothering to speak to the other two. Fengjiu and Duan Yi looked at each other and also sat down at the table. The two only drank wine and didn't eat much. An hour later, Ning Lang took a breath and finally put down his chopsticks. Are you full? Fengjiu asked with a smile. I'm full. He rubbed his stomach and burped. This is the fullest and most delicious meal I've ever had. As soon as he finished speaking, he paused for a moment and looked at the two of them. I thought you guys had left. I thought you guys were really going to be sold to a brothel. Those people, I told them I was from the Ning family and that my family's wealth was comparable to a country's, but they didn't believe me. As he spoke, his face turned gloomy. Everything I have on me has been stolen by those people. Hearing this, Fengjiu glanced at him, then threw a Chinquin bag to him. Your things are all here. All right, let's go if you're full. We've already been delayed here for a few days. Ning Lang was stunned. He opened it and couldn't help but be astonished. It's really my treasures. Why are they in your... He wanted to ask, but he saw that Fengjiu and Duan had already walked out. Even the white ball pet had already followed them. At that moment, he hurriedly put away the Chinquin bag and followed them down. After the three of them left the city gate, they directly threw out their magic tools and flew toward the next second-class country. About 2 days later, they arrived at a town in another country that was adjacent to the Tsang country. Aren't we going to the Hell Mountain Range? Why are we here? Ning Lang followed beside Fengjiu. Looking at the red-clothed man walking leisurely, he was a little confused. For the past 2 days, the more he thought about it, the more he felt that something was not quite right. However, he could not figure out what was wrong. It was true that he had saved him, but how did his things end up with him? They had arrived at the inn together. He also knew that Fengjiu and Duan Yi had not gone out at that time, so it was naturally impossible for them to find someone to deal with him in that short period of time. But after thinking about it, he still felt that he had been tricked. However, due to his coldness, he did not dare to ask about this matter again. I'm here to find someone, Song Ming, Fengjiu said, and entered the city with them. Looking at the bustling city, her gaze fell on a tea stall in front of them. Let's go have a cup of tea first. Little Tunyon obediently followed behind her, with the other two following behind her. When they arrived at the tea stall, other than tea, there were also some snacks to eat. Why are you looking for Song Ming? He's a wastrel. He doesn't do his job all day long, but he likes beauties. Ning Lang curled his lips. He did not have a deep relationship with Song Ming, but he had heard of his reputation. It could be said that he was a local ruffian born in a wealthy family. Duan Yi knew the identity of Fengjiu's mentor. He also knew that they were going to look for Song Ming, so he did not feel anything. He did not have a deep relationship with Song Ming, but in the past, he often heard of his reputation as a wastrel in the academy. He paid attention to him only because Ning Lang, Song Ming, and Luo Fei were listed as the 4 big thorns in the academy. No mentor dared to teach them, and no one dared to offend them. Chapter 983. He was actually very repulsed by the 8 great empires. His family was the royal family here, but it was said that they were only a small family there. He didn't want to go there, so he didn't pay much attention to his cultivation and didn't return to the academy. He didn't plan to be chosen by the nebulous sect in the future. If he was chosen, then he had to go there. He could be called a little tyrant here, but if he went to those places, he would have to be humble. He didn't want to do that. Quick, quick! Song Ming is gambling in front again. He lost a lot of money yesterday. Let's go and take a look, a few men said and went forward together. Feng Jiao and the other 2 who were sitting at the tea stall heard this, and their expressions changed slightly. It was said that Song Ming, in addition to his love for beauties and debauchery, was also very good at gambling. How could he lose? Let's go and take a look too. Ning Lang looked at the other 2 and asked. Yes. Feng Jiao nodded. After paying for the tea, he got up and followed the crowd. Some distance ahead, an alley was crowded with people. There was a square table in the middle of the crowd. A young man in embroidered clothes sat there with his legs crossed. There was a servant behind him. There was a dice cup in front of him. There were 2 words written on the table, big and small. There was also a lot of money on it. Quick, 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 place your bets. He shouted and knocked on the table with one hand. Many people placed their bets again. Most of them bet on the big side. After everyone settled down, he opened the dice cup. When he saw the numbers inside, everyone was shocked. How could it be small? I've already opened many small games. I've already lost a lot of money on the big side. I'll definitely open big this time. I'm sorry everyone. My luck is still pretty good today. I won again. He laughed. The servant behind him went forward to take the money and stood behind him obediently. Song Ming picked up the dice on the table and shook it. After putting it down, he shouted again, place your bets. Place your bets. I'll bet on big. I'll bet on big too. I'll definitely open big. I don't believe I won't open this side. Everyone gambled and their eyes turned red. They didn't believe in heresy and took out their money to bet on the bigger side. Feng Jiao and the other 2 watched from where they were. They saw those people shouting and hollering, but when it was time to open the first round, they would open smaller rounds. After a few rounds, it was obvious that they had lost until their eyes were red. Finally, someone believed him and shouted, keep opening small. I'll buy small for this round. I'll buy a small one too. Another person followed, and in the blink of an eye, he saw a pile of gold and silver coins on the small side. However, when the plate was opened, the surroundings fell silent, and then people started cursing. Song Ming. Are you trying to cheat? If we buy a big one, we will open a small one. If we buy a small one, we will open a big one. You must be cheating. Yes, you must have cheated. Give us back our money. All of them were angry and went forward to snatch the money. However, at this moment, Song Ming snorted heavily and slammed his hands on the table. The aura of a cultivator in the late stage of foundation establishment swept out and instantly pushed the people around him away. He stood up with a sullen face and stared at the people who had fallen to the ground. He snorted coldly. How dare you steal my money? I think you've got guts. As soon as he finished speaking, he motioned for the servant behind him to put away the money on the table. Chapter 984. Right after he said that, his gaze fell on the 3 people at the side. One of them was wearing red clothes that fluttered in the wind. He had a handsome face and an outstanding temperament. The corners of his good-looking lips held an indescribable smile. For some reason, he looked a bit strange in Mo Tinga's eyes. Next to him was a purple-clothed youth and a finely clothed youth. The former had a baby face and his chin was slightly raised, revealing a bit of arrogance. The latter had a round figure and a pleasant face. His small eyes were narrowed into a line. Seeing that the 3 people's gazes were on him, he crossed his arms and asked, "What are you guys staring at me for?" Song Ming. Feng Jiao's gaze fell on him, sizing him up thoroughly. He was in the late stage of the foundation building realm and was about 18 or 19 years old. His clothes were loose, and he was leaning against the wall with his arms crossed and his legs slightly trembling. He looked like a slovenly ruffian. According to the information given to her by the academy, Imo Tinga knew that Song Ming's family was a bit complicated. His mother died of illness when he was 5 years old. In the same year, she found out that his father had another woman and 2 sons. One was the same age as him, and the other was a year younger. The year his mother passed away, his father married that woman. He was just a 5-year-old child, but he was able to stop his mother's clansmen from inciting his father to marry that woman and become Madame Song. Under the pressure of the clan elders and his mother's relatives, in the end, that woman could only be accepted as a second wife and was called Second Madam. Even his 2 sons could only be born of concubines. Perhaps it was because of his family's environment, but his behavior had been unruly since he was a child. Fighting, gambling, and beauties were all involved. However, his talent was outstanding since he was a child. In addition, he had the support of his mother's clansmen and the protection of the clan elders. It could be said that even in his family, he was a tyrant. No one could discipline him. Imo Tinga looked at him, but didn't say anything. That was because when Song Ming caught a glimpse of a few people coming from not far away, he immediately took the Chinquin bag that contained money from the attendant's hand and ran away. You go back first. I'm going to have a chat with the beauties. Young master, don't run. Clan head wants you to go back. When those people saw him running away, they hurriedly shouted and chased after him. Feng Jiu glanced at those people. 2 of them were golden core cultivators, and a few behind them were great spirit masters. It seemed that it wouldn't take long for them to catch Song Ming. I've seen Song Ming from afar for a day or 2, but it looks like he doesn't remember us. As Duan Yi spoke, he looked at Feng Jiu and asked, "How do you plan to take him away?" His family's affairs were troublesome. He probably wants to stay here and cause trouble for his dissolute father, and won't follow us to the Hell Mountain Range. Feng Jiu glanced at him and said leisurely, "You also know that all of you are troublesome?" Hearing this, Duan Yi snorted and looked away. How were they not worrisome? They just didn't want to be restrained. Let's find a place to stay. Since we're already here, why don't we find a time to visit the Song family? Ning Lang said as he walked outside to take a look. Let's go to the front and have a look. There should be an inn up ahead. Let's go. As she spoke, she walked forward with them, planning to find an inn to stay in first. However, after entering the inn, they booked 3 rooms and were led upstairs by the innkeeper. Just as they were about to go upstairs, they heard a young man's surprised voice behind them. Chapter 985. Feng Jiu looked back and saw a young man in embroidered robes standing in front of Tan Yun. He looked at the little white ball of Tan Yun in surprise. If Tan Yun had not been glaring at him unkindly, he probably would have reached out to carry Tan Yun. "I'm not selling," Feng Jiu called out, and Tan Yun leaped to her feet. "I'll pay a high price. Sell it to me," the young man said, and came to Feng Jiu's side. Feng Jiu could not help but smile when she heard that. She glanced at the young man. "Do I look like I'm in need of people?" The young man looked him up and down. Only then did he notice this person's extraordinary aura. He saw that his clothes were all of high quality, especially the rainbow-colored feather at his waist that was half covered by his outer robes. It was even more dazzling. "Then I'll give you something in exchange," he said in a different way. Feng Jiu ignored him. She glanced at him coldly and walked up the stairs with Tan Yun. When the youth was swept by that gaze, he felt a chill run up from the soles of his feet to his heart. However, when he saw Duan Yi go upstairs, he wanted to say something, but Duan Yi reached out and pushed him impolitely. "What are you doing? Are you asking for a beating? Why are you pushing me?" The young man was furious and glared at the baby-faced Duan Yi. Compared to the young man in Red's cold gaze, the baby-faced young man did not have that kind of frightening aura. Hence, he was not afraid. "Stay away from us." Duan Yi snorted coldly and left behind a warning before turning around and walking upstairs. However, at this moment, his robes were stepped on, almost causing him to fall forward. "Ah, I'm sorry, I accidentally stepped on your robes," the young man said apologetically. However, his face was full of provocation. Duan Yi was not one to be taken advantage of. When he saw that the young man dared to step on his robes, his baby-faced face immediately darkened. He raised his leg and gave the young man a kick without warning. Bang! Hiss! The kick landed on the young man's chest and sent him flying. He fell to the ground in pain and could not stand up for a long time. Third young master. The guards outside quickly walked in and helped him up. Two of them pulled out the long swords at their waists and attacked Duan Yi and Ning Lang. How dare you hit my young master? You're courting death. Ning Lang was staring at Duan Ye's robe that had been stepped on. Seeing that there was a footprint on it, he was about to laugh out loud when he saw Duan Yi turn around and kick the young man out. He opened his mouth in shock. While he was in a daze, a few guards rushed in from outside. Some helped the young man up, while some drew their swords and slashed at them. He was so shocked that he suddenly came back to his senses. Why are you slashing me? I didn't kick your young master. He shouted as he dodged. At the same time, he threw out a punch and hit one of the guards in the eye. My eyes. Damn it. You two brats. The other two guards also rushed forward and attacked with their long swords. The light of the blade and the shadow of the sword flashed and landed in the inn. Some of the ordinary guests were so shocked that they quickly dodged. However, some cultivators remained seated and watched the fight with interest. The innkeeper of the inn hid behind the counter and looked at the messy first floor. His face was pale with worry as he shouted, "Masters, masters, stop fighting. Stop fighting. If you continue fighting, my little inn will be destroyed." Up. Chapter 986. Fengjiu, who was in the guest room upstairs, couldn't help but shake her head when she heard the commotion and cries downstairs. It wasn't peaceful anywhere, especially when she brought along a few troublemakers. Ning Lang wasn't very strong, but he was smart and had many thoughts. Duan Yi could fight against a golden core cultivator, so she didn't have to worry about the two of them being at a disadvantage. Thus, she rubbed her neck and ordered Tunyin to watch the door while she went inside to rest on the bed. Downstairs, a few great spirit master guard were unable to gain an advantage over Duan Yi and Ning Lang, so they could only dejectedly help their third young master, who had been beaten black and blue, slip away. However, before they could leave the inn, they were blocked by Ning Lang, who was smiling and squinting his eyes. Hee, you can leave, but shouldn't you deal with the compensation first before leaving? You guys broke it. The young man glared at him, gritting his teeth in anger. What do you mean we broke it? You guys are the ones who broke it. Don't you think so, shopkeeper? Ning Lang smiled and looked at the shopkeeper, who had just popped his head out from a corner. The shopkeeper wiped his cold sweat and looked at Duan Yi and Ning Lang, then at the young man and the guards. He didn't know where the former came from, but his skills were extraordinary. The latter was the third young master of the Song family in the city, so he didn't dare to offend him. After hesitating for a while, he said carefully, Then why don't both of you compensate me a little? Before he could finish, he was interrupted by Ning Lang's voice. What? You want me to compensate you? Shopkeeper, are you kidding me? Are you sure your eyes aren't under your feet? They were clearly the ones who brought people here to cause trouble, using knives and swords to break your tables and chairs, and you actually want this young master to compensate as well? In your dreams. It's good enough that I didn't ask you to compensate me for the shock, but you actually want me to compensate you? Do you think it's easy to earn my money? Huh? The chubby young man glared at the door, blocking the young man and the others from leaving. At the same time, he glared at the shopkeeper and lectured him. His expression seemed to say that if you dare to make me pay, I will fight you to the death. Seeing this, the shopkeeper felt guilty and didn't know what to do. It was true that the people from the Song clan had used their weapons, but if the two of them hadn't lifted the chair and table and smashed it at him, they wouldn't have been chopped into pieces, and the first floor wouldn't have been destroyed like this. The shopkeeper couldn't help but look at the people from the Song clan, and for a moment, he was very nervous. What are you waiting for? Pay up. Ning Lang glared at the people in front of him. Or do you think you haven't beaten me enough? You want another fight? The young man clenched his teeth. The pain on his face made him swallow his anger. He said to a guard, Pay up. When a guard saw this, he hurriedly took out some money to compensate the shopkeeper. Only then did he support his young master and leave. Little guy, you're talking about money with your Lord Ning? You should be thankful that I didn't make you pay with your underwear facing the sky. Ning Lang snorted and said to the shopkeeper, "Prepare a few dishes for us and send them upstairs." "Yes, yes." The shopkeeper hurriedly responded and watched as the two of them walked upstairs. On the first floor, some cultivators sitting in the corner couldn't help but feel a little surprised when they saw this scene. They didn't expect that the two young men could actually beat the guards and that young man, and even make them pay. Chapter 987. However, the people on the first floor guessed wrong. The youth did indeed complain after returning home. However, Master Song was having a headache about his eldest son, Song Ming, and had no time to care about his youngest son. Therefore, after hearing the guard's words, he only told his son not to cause trouble and did not say anything else. In the west courtyard, a beautiful woman was looking at the jewelry sent by the jewelry shop in the courtyard. She picked up a necklace and asked a maid to put on her. After looking at the effect, she heard the sound of kicking and cursing outside. "Go and see what's going on," the beautiful woman said slowly. Her voice was soft and gentle, like a gentle and delicate beauty. Her appearance and figure were indeed so. Even though she was already in her 30s, she looked like a woman in her 20s. This beautiful woman was the second madam of the Song family. "Madam, the third young master is sulking outside. I don't know who hit him, but his face is full of injuries. This servant wanted to apply medicine for him, but he didn't let me." "Hit by someone?" The second madam was startled. She put down the jewelry in her hand and walked out. When she came to the courtyard, she saw her son's face covered in bruises. She couldn't help but feel distressed. "Who dared to hit you like this? Quick, get the medicine for the third young master to apply." "I don't want it." He pushed the second madam away and said angrily, "I don't want it. If you're hurt, you have to apply medicine. How can you not apply medicine? Don't throw a tantrum. Quick, mother will apply it for you." She looked at her son with distress. She took the medicine from the maid and was about to apply it for him. "I won't. I won't." He angrily pushed the medicine in the second madam's hand to the ground and broke it. Seeing this, a trace of worry appeared on the second madam's delicate face. She asked, "Then tell mother who hit you. Don't tell me it was your eldest brother who dragged you to the martial arts field and beat you like this again." "It wasn't him. It was those two stinky brats. They beat me up and even made me pay for the tavern. I couldn't take this lying down, but father said he was busy with big brother's matter and told me not to cause trouble. He wouldn't stand up for me," he said hatefully, his eyes filled with unwillingness. No matter how much his father doted on him, he couldn't compare to his elder brother. His matters would never be as important as his elder brother's. Just because he was born of a concubine, just because his mother wasn't the wife of the head of the Song family. Hearing this, the second madam's eyes flickered, and she said softly, "Since your father has said so, don't think about it anymore, lest you make your father unhappy. Big brother is always causing trouble outside. When his father ever said anything about him? If big brother was bullied outside, father would help him out." He said angrily, his fists clenched tightly. The more he thought about it, the harder it was for him to get over it. Don't always compare yourself with your big brother. Your big brother is the son of the first wife. Your father has his reasons for valuing him. Just say these words here. Don't say it outside and let others hear it. Otherwise, your father and big brother will be unhappy if they know. She patted his hand and said, "All right, you can go back first. Don't mention it again." "But go?" She gestured and called two people to send him back to the courtyard. After he left, she sat in the courtyard. A faint light flashed through her eyes as she said, "Call the guards who went out with the third young master today." "Yes." The maid replied and went out to call them. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.